Hashem Naaseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Baruch Hashem. We have a lot going on in the next week. This is the last Shiur in Boca Raton, and actually tomorrow I have one in Hebrew. But then next week, B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to Israel. We're going to go on a nice long trip to do as many Shiurim as possible. We're going to be there for 40 days, B'ezrat Hashem, and send you guys the Shiur on WhatsApp. So again, if anyone is not on it, they should join the WhatsApp group that I have. I send the daily chizuk, which is like a 10-minute Dvar Torah, usually 5 days a week, I would say, average 4 or 5 times a week I send it, which a lot of people like because it's only 10 minutes and it's relevant to our day-to-day life. And also I send my shiurim on the group, so anyone that's not on it should join. And if you guys want to have like a separate group you want to create, no problem. I'll send you it that way. But I'm not going to have regular text message on once I'm there. But as you saw, it's a very active group. So a lot of people talk, they communicate, Baruch Hashem, full of nice compliments. Sometimes it can get a little disturbing. So one of two things I would recommend: either put the group on mute, which is you press the button, the name of the group. After it shows you a screen, you press mute. Or you have a choice of putting it on mute, which is 1 day, 1 week, or 1 year. Put it on 1 year, and that way you don't get an alert every time there's a text message, and which drives you crazy, because I know it drives me crazy, because I have several groups that I'm a part of. And on Google it's a little different. But the point is, everybody can figure out how to put the group on mute so it doesn't drive you crazy, because there's a lot of really resourceful things on it. Aside from like Facebook, it's the only way you're going to be able to communicate with me once I'm out of here. So you can call me. I'll give you guys my phone number if anybody needs to reach me. But Baruch Hashem, the group is getting bigger. A lot of people are joining. The group on Facebook is consistently growing. Baruch Hashem, a lot of people doing tshuva, a lot of converts. The group in Texas is Baruch Hashem getting closer and closer. The woman that's in Florida, B'ezrat Hashem, should be converted by next month. So a lot of action, and a lot of good action. And we're seeing that a lot of the prophecies in the world today are coming true. And one of the things we see this week, we're seeing we have we have Purim in a couple of days. Briefly, I'll tell you some of the halachot of Purim, and I'm going to actually go over the updates and everything else during the actual shiur itself, because I think that what we're about to go over is probably one of the best Mussar books ever written. But most people don't consider it a Mussar book. So the basic halachot of what you're responsible for in Purim, it's only 4 things. I went over it last night, but for anyone who didn't watch it, 4 simple things. 1, you have to do mishloach manot, at least 2 mishloach manot. The mishloach manot has to be something that can be made into a meal. So it's not just candy. If you have just candy, it's not. You're not fulfilling the mitzvah. It has to be considered a meal, which is mezonot and something to drink. So some people put cookies, some people put sandwiches, some people put something they made if they're giving it to somebody that they know. Most people usually put something that's already, if they're giving it to people that are not really close to, they give something that's still in the wrapping. If you really know people well, then you could give them something you cooked if you want. But it has to be something that can be made into a meal. The second thing is that you have to give matanot le'evyonim, gifts to the poor. The gifts to the poor has to be at least the value of a meal, and it's 2 gifts. 2 gifts, 2 different people. It has to be the value of 1 meal. So a meal, is anywhere between $7 and $10. You decide, and you have to give 2 gifts to the evyonim. The third thing is that you have to listen to Megillah Esther. Megillah Esther, you have to listen to it twice. 1 on Wednesday night, tomorrow night, and 1 on Thursday morning. You have to listen to every single word. If you miss a word, if you didn't hear or didn't understand a word, you have to have a chumash open. At the end of the chumash, you're going to see Megillah Esther, and you have to read the word yourself. So it's very important for men, women, and children to listen to the Megillah. If the children are too young to understand, comprehend, and be quiet, then it's better that you do it at a different time. Maybe have somebody come to your house. There's in our community, Baruch Hashem, there's plenty of reading times. If you can't do it with your wife, like for example, my wife and I can't go to the same one, so she's going to go one time and I'm going to go at a different time. So you have to listen to it twice. After you finish the Megillah, on tomorrow, there's a fast. Here the fast starts, I think, at around 6 o'clock in the morning. 6:13. Okay, so it starts at 6, ends around 8 o'clock at night. Everybody has to check their own local times, whoever's watching this. The Megillah is usually read a little bit before the fast ends. So by the time the Megillah is finished, the fast is finished. So then you go home, you have a meal. You're not obligated to have any special type of meal on the eve of Purim, just a regular meal. If you want to have a big meal, you can have a big meal. It's up to you. But the meal that's part of the mitzvah of Purim is actually in the next day. During the day of Purim, you have to have a meal that is with basal and yain. You have to have wine and you have to have basal. Basal and wine is because you're celebrating. So generally, if somebody is a vegetarian, this is one of those days you should consider breaking it because it's very important to fulfill the mitzvah. Obviously, if you can't and it disgusts you, then so be it. But you have to drink wine more than what you drink normally. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to drink to the point where you can't comprehend what's going on in the world. But also, you can get a little, you can get tipsy. It's a mitzvah. But most important thing about getting drunk, because I don't think many people go over this, is that you cannot go to the Bet Knesset drunk under any condition. You can never go to a Bet Knesset, even walk into a Bet Knesset drunk. Last year, unfortunately, I saw a few people that were drunk, came into Bet Knesset. It's a big Chilul Hashem, big ason. It's better off to miss the entire prayer than go to Bet Knesset drunk. So, yes, what the best thing to do is to drink, fall asleep for a half hour, and then usually when you wake up when it's pretty much over. If you're not a big drinker, I'm not a big drinker, I don't drink at all throughout the entire year. I still have to drink a little bit just to make the mitzvah, but it's for me to get drunk is probably not going to happen. But anybody else that drinks normally, on a regular basis, you could drink a little bit more than normally and enjoy the holiday. Have a meal. And that's pretty much the basics of Purim. People have it's a nice thing, nice time to dress up. Anyone that's dressing up, kids dress up, adults can dress up, should dress up. It's a fun day, and we should definitely use it as a time to enjoy. But one of the things that I wanted to go over today is Megillat Esther. I did a shiur last year, which Baruch Hashem had a very big turnout online. In person, not so many, but online was actually very successful for, I think, at least 6-8 months. It was probably my top shiur. But I want to go over some of the things we didn't go over last year. There's a lot of things. Megillat Esther, in my opinion, after looking at some of the details of the Megillah and studying it, it's probably one of the best Mussar books that you can ever read. Most people that know about Megillat Esther and didn't study it, think of it as a very nice story, and that has a big miracle in it. But the reality of it is that there's a lot of Mussar, there's a lot of lessons we can learn to apply to our life, both individually and as a nation, that we have to learn from, or else this is going to happen again, because it's happened several times. So the whole Megillah is not very long. It takes, I think, about 40 minutes or so to read it in the Bet Knesset. But to learn the Megillah takes more than that. I recommend everybody to get this one, in my opinion, is a very good one. Art Scroll. Art Scroll makes very good quality stuff. As a matter of fact, this is the first book that Art Scroll ever came out with. This is the first book that started Art Scroll. It's a very nice story. It was actually originally written in memory of a tzaddik that passed away, and but it was so successful that it started the whole company Art Scroll. So this is about 40 years ago. So they had a special that they sent out to customers, the book for free, and it's amazing. It's mamash. It has great pirushim, a lot of details, a lot of very, very interesting things.
English?
Yeah, of course, English. They have English, they have Hebrew, but the one I'm reading here is English and Hebrew. So there's a lot of misconceptions about the story of Megillat Esther. So the first thing we need to go over is, I guess, what happened before it. When did it happen, and why did it happen? Now, the first Bet HaMikdash was destroyed by the wicked Nebuchadnezzar in about a little over 2,000 years ago, 2,400 years ago, 450 years ago, by Nebuchadnezzar Rasha, the king of Babylon. I'm sorry, about 2,000 years ago, yeah. So he destroyed the Bet HaMikdash, but he also received prophecy from Hashem of what's going to happen at the end of times. This is all can be read in the book of Daniel. After Nebuchadnezzar, Cyrus took over. Or actually, Belshazzar took over. After that, Cyrus took over. And shortly after, Achashverosh took over. Now, the reason why I mentioned the other kings is because, unlike today, where the leaders of the world are mostly either anti-Torah or completely ignorant of Torah, the leaders of those days actually knew and believed in the Torah. Even if they believed in idol worship, they still believed in the Torah. And the reason why after he destroyed the Bet HaMikdash, the reason why we start off this Megillat Esther with a party that Achashverosh throws is because Achashverosh was aware of the prophecy that Jeremiah made almost 70 years before, that Hashem is going to allow the Jews to build a second Bet HaMikdash. Now this 70 years, this prophecy, actually I'm sorry, Jeremiah made the prophecy almost 200 years beforehand, that there's going to be about a 7-year difference between the Bet HaMikdash. Now this prophecy, everyone knew it. All of the kings knew it. And all of them were scared of it. Now, after Nebuchadnezzar died, his son took over, and his son was counting every single day to see if this prophecy come true. Because despite them his father destroying the Bet HaMikdash, they were still all scared of the God of Israel, and they still all knew that the Torah is real. And according to the prophet, not only will the Bet HaMikdash be built, but the enemies will be punished. So everyone was counting with a lot of nerve of, when is this prophecy going to come true and not come true, what's going to happen. When Belshazzar decided that 7 years have passed, according to his calculations, not according to the calculations of Jeremiah, which no one knew, he decided to throw a party, and not only throw a regular party, he wanted to take all of the kelim, all of the tools of the Bet HaMikdash, the menorah, the clothes of the Kohen Gadol, and so on, and show off the treasure that he has. And he did something that not even Nebuchadnezzar did. And he showed off all of these things, which is complete desecration of Hashem's name, and he died that very night. Hashem sent somebody to assassinate him that very night. Same night. After him, Cyrus came in, and he decided that it's time to fulfill the prophecy, and even though he was a goy, he was a righteous goy, he was a righteous Gentile. And he decided the time has come to build the Bet HaMikdash. And not to celebrate that it wasn't built, like Belshazzar. It's time to build it. It's time to fulfill the prophecy. The Jews are a people that have been around. They're the chosen. Let's build the Bet HaMikdash. And he made a decree to build the Bet HaMikdash. But unfortunately, when he passed this law, we had the very same problem in his time that we have today. And the same exact problem that we've had for 2,000 years, over 2,000 years. What is the problem? We had no achdut. We had no unity. So when he announced that it's time to build the Beit HaMikdash, out of millions and millions of Jews, only 42,000 showed up. That's it. Millions and millions of Jews heard that not only the prophecy that Hashem gave to Jeremiah is being fulfilled, but we have permission without fighting to go build the Beit HaMikdash. People are either non-believers or they didn't like each other. This one's Ashkenazi, this one's Sephardic, this one's Yemenite. I don't like his prayer, I don't like his chazan, I don't like this, I don't believe it. All the nonsense that we've been dealing with for 2,000 years. It's only 42,000 agreed to go. That's it. So now Hashem decided that in order for us to have a Beit HaMikdash, it's not for 42,000 people, it's for the entire people. So if there's no Achdut, there's no Beit HaMikdash. So Cyrus was removed from power, and Achashverosh becomes king. And the first day that Achashverosh becomes king, he passes a law, no Beit Mikdash. Stop the building. So they've been building for a couple of years, stop in the middle, no more building Beit HaMikdash. Mm-hmm. Now in the beginning of Megillat Esther is where the story begins of when Achashverosh not only stopped the building of the Beit HaMikdash, but he's also throwing a party. He's throwing a party that he believes that according to his calculations, the 70 years have passed, and since the prophecy didn't come true, it's never going to come true. God of Israel has left Israel. So he's throwing a party, but what kind of party is he throwing? He's throwing a party for 180 days. 6 months. 6 months party. Such a big party that he wanted to show off his wealth, because Achashverosh was not your typical king. What we know initially when we just read the Megillah, we just learn that he's a king. We don't know the background story. Now, usually, my father tells a good story. He says, he asked this, him or somebody else asked this rich guy one time, how did you make your money? He says, I can tell you how I made all of my millions, except the first million. Meaning that it's implying that usually people, to make their first batch of money, is a big secret, whether it's a scam or it's something they don't want anyone else to know, whatever it is, no one wants to tell their trade secrets. So from the basic pshat, from the basic reading of the Megillah, we don't know how Achashverosh became king. So we go to Chazal. We go to our sages to find out how did Achashverosh become king. And the biggest question we have to ask ourselves before we even go to Chazal is, somebody asked me this question, one of the people that watches the Shiur asked me this question. He says, why should we rely on Chazal? They weren't there. Rabbi Akiva wasn't there during the time of Achashverosh. Rabbi Yehuda wasn't there during the time of Moshe Rabbeinu. Why should we rely? Why Rashi wasn't there during any of these stories? Why should we rely on their interpretation? So to answer the question in detail, we have to go to Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot has 6 parts, and it's a Mishnah. And the first Pirkei Avot gives us a very critical answer that every Jewish person needs to know. And it says, I'll read it in English. Moses received the Torah. This is 1:1. First Pirkei Avot. Moses received the Torah from God, who revealed himself at Mount Sinai, and transmitted it to Joshua, Yeshua ben Nun. Joshua transferred it to the elders, Laskinim. The elders to the prophets, the Nevi'im. The prophets transmitted it to the men of the great assembly, Anshei Knesset HaGdolah. And they said 3 things. Be deliberate in judgment, develop many disciples, and make a protective fence for the Torah. So why does the Pirkei Avot start that way? because the Pirkei Avot is trying to tell us that the Torah is not just a book that we found in the middle of a desert. We have a direct lineage of exactly how we got it from Moshe Rabbeinu all the way till now. Now, to give even more details of how it's transpired, I think it's actually in the other book. We have a list of exactly every single sage that took over. Matter of fact, it'd probably take too long to go over it. I'll just go over it briefly. Every single sage from Yeshua ben Nun and Anshe Knesset HaGdolah who actually took over. Not only do we know the names, we know the dates. So no one can say, oh, maybe there was a lapse. There was a gap of time that maybe there was a mistake. Maybe a game of telephone. After Yeshua ben Nun, along with Elazar, the son of Aaron, and Pinchas, the son of Elazar, Pinchas took over. Then he gave it to Eli. Then to Shmuel. Then to King David. Then Achia, the prophet. Then Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu Navi. Then Elisha the prophet, the student of Elijah the prophet. Then Yoyada. Then Zechariah. Then Hosea. Then Amos. Then Isaiah. Then Micha. Then Yoel. Then Nahuma. Then Habakkuk. Then Zephaniah. Then Jeremiah. Then Baruch the prophet. Then Ezra the scribe, whose court included Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, Nehemiah, Mordechai, Zerubbabel, Shimon the Tzaddik, and then Shimon the Tzaddik became the high priest. The main oral Torah that as far as how all of the receivers, if anyone wants to check literally name by name, is in the book Mishneh Torah by the Rambam, Maimonides. In generation 30, this is, by the way, the list I'm giving you is generations. So, for example, Zachariah, the next generation is Hosea, the next generation is Amos. So it shows you from generation to generation who took over. Generation 35 is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, which actually put the Mishnah in writing. But the first bit of oral Torah that was written was not by Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. It was actually by Yonatan ben Uziel. Yonatan ben Uziel actually wrote the first bit of the Torah, which when he did in Masechet Megillah, it says that the entire country had an earthquake. And then a heavenly voice came down and then said, who disclosed my secrets to mankind? And Yonatan ben Uziel said, it was me. But I did not do it for the respect of my father, and then I do it for my own respect. I did it for yours. I did it for your glory, because our generations are deteriorating so much that if we don't do something, the oral Torah, which is the real part of the Torah, the critical part of the Torah, the part of the Torah where without it there really isn't a Torah, chas v'shalom. Without it we don't have anything, so we had to put it in writing. And he actually says, I want to write more commentary on the rest of the Torah. And the Bat Kol said, the heavenly voice said, you've done enough. Meaning you're not allowed to write anymore. Why? Because the rest of the Torah that he didn't write about has the secrets of the exact time of when the Mashiach is going to come. And Hashem did not want us to know when the Mashiach is going to come exactly, because lest people will end up waiting for the last minute to do tshuva. This is also the reason why Hashem changed age. If you read in the beginning of Sefer Bereshit, in the beginning of the Torah, you see that Adam Rishon lived to 930 years old. Noach was 600 years old just at the time of the Mabul. He lived more than that. Metushelach was over 1,000 years old, almost 1,000 years old, and so on. There's many people that lived literally almost 1,000 years, hundreds and hundreds of years. But then you see the most righteous person that ever lived, the prophet of all prophets, Moshe Rabbeinu, maxed out at 120 years old. Why? Hashem decided, even before the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu, to limit the age. Because what ended up happening is that people thought, oh, my father lived till 500, so I should live at least till 350, 400, maybe even more, because medicine is getting better. Like today, people think, oh, my grandparents only lived till they're 70 or 80, so with medicine advancing, I should live till 120. They don't realize that your life or death is decided in Shamayim. They think it's decided by medicine. Mm-hmm. So Hashem decided to limit life to a much shorter life, because when people thought that they have a lot of time, they figured that they could sin for a long time and then eventually do tshuva. This is the same concept, same wrong mindset that people have in regards to the Mashiach. They're always worried about, when is the Mashiach going to come? He's going to come next week, he's going to come next month, next year. When should I do tshuva? The reality of it is that a Mashiach, our own personal Mashiach, as we talked about last week, can show up at any minute. It's called death. Somebody dies, that's their Mashiach. That's their time to wake up and pay the bill. So Achashverosh decided to have this huge party, and Achashverosh's background story is that he actually used to be the guy that works in the and cleans the horses. For who? For Vashti, his wife, for her father. He used to clean the horses. Mm-hmm. But then it says, the Midrash says, that Achashverosh, actually, it's called Amelech. Why is he given such respect? Masechet Megillah, Masechet Megillah, page 11, it says that really Achashverosh bought his position. Meaning he had so much money that he made himself king. So how does a horse cleaner have so much money? He found a treasure, became the richest person in the world, other than Haman. Haman was actually the richest man of all time, next to Korach. Korach was the richest man of all time. Mm-hmm. Then it was Haman, and now you have Achashverosh. So it says, "V'hi b'mei Achashverosh hu Achashverosh amolech mehodu ve'ad Kush sheva be'yisrim me'a medina." It says, it came to pass in the days of Achashverosh that Achashverosh, who reigned from Hodu to Kush, 127 provinces. To give us an idea of what the power and wealth of Achashverosh is, he is one of very few kings in history that actually ruled the entire world. 127 countries. Every single country had to pay him taxes. Every single country had to pretty much ask him before they went to the bathroom. So it was mamash complete control of the world. No one has that today, or at least for the last few thousand years. And this is one of the few that actually had it. So now, Achashverosh is having this big party to show that the prophecy did not come true. And he wants to make sure that everybody knows that it's cancelled. So what does he do? He brings, to show off not only his wealth, he wants to show off what he inherited from the previous king he took over power from. What did he inherit? The Kilim of the Bet HaMikdash. So he brings them out also. Now Hashem could have killed them also, but he wanted to use them to bring salvation to the Jews. So he did not kill him, he would punish him later on. One of the punishments that he would give him is by killing his wife, Vashti. Once Achashverosh has a lot of nerve. One of the things that he did is to show people that he had money and so on. We see it in the Midrash, says, Malchuto v'yekar tiferet gdulato. The splendor, majesty, meaning tiferet, is one of the words that describes the clothing of the Kohen HaGadol. So we know from here that he wore the clothing of the Kohanim. But how do we know it's the Kohen Gadol and not the regular Kohen? Because the next verse says, Chur, karpas utchelet achuz. When it's describing the different things, it says there were hangings of white, fine cotton, and so on, and then turquoise. The letter Chet, if you notice in the Megillah, is extra large. It's very big, much bigger than the normal letters. And the value of Chet is 8. What's 8 in the Torah? 8 is the number of clothing, of garments that the Kohen Gadol would wear. The regular Kohanim would wear 4. So this is one of the ways that we see that whoever wrote the Megillah was not just a story. It's not like a Harry Potter book. You know, a lot of people ask a question, how come Hashem's name is not mentioned in the Megillah? You have 24 books in the Tanakh. Megillah is one of them. But it's the only book in the entire Torah that does not mention Hashem's name one time. So people say, oh no, maybe it was just a story. Maybe the Goyim or the atheists will say, this is just it's a Agadah, it's a fairy tale. The people that don't believe, don't have enough Yirat Shamayim, say, it's just somebody wrote it. It's not necessarily as holy as the rest. From little codes and intricate details of the Megillah, we're going to find out that not only is this book extremely holy and extremely good for Mussar, extremely good for a lot of things, but it's also something that could not have been written without Ruach HaKodesh. No way that a human being could have this type of, this type of intellect to write the Megillah this way. So, moving on.
You know who wrote it?
I don't know.
No, anybody know?
I know it was written at the time of, it was decreed to be written by Esther, who was the queen. But as far as naming a specific person, I don't know it. I don't think it does name a person that actually wrote the Megillah, not to my recollection.
It wasn't Esther?
Huh?
It wasn't Esther?
Esther was a queen. She wasn't a scribe. The Torah is written by scribes. Someone who knows how to write. Our Torah is not written by average people. It's not like my notes that you saw. Torah is something holy. So it has to be written with certain laws that have to be followed, how to use, what kind of letters, what kind of shapes. You have to go to the mikveh, you have to be a very holy person. There's laws of how to write Sefer Torah. It's not typing on a computer. So even though Esther was a prophet and a very, very holy person, doesn't necessarily mean that she had the skill set to write it. So now, in this Seudah, for 6 months, it says, ובמלאות הימים האלה עשה המלך לכל העם הנמצאים בשושן, הבירה למגדול ועד קטן משתי 7 ימים בחצר גינת ביתן המלך. It says, and when these days were fulfilled, the king made a 7-day feast for all the people who were presented in Shushan, the capital. So, the king, after 6 months of partying, he extended and made another party for another week. But what's the point? It says if all the people that came to the original party, he made a party for them. Who were the Chazal telling us that he's referring to? He's referring to here that there were many Jews that came to the party, and not just regular ordinary Jews, rabbis. So the Gemara asks, why was Am Yisrael, later on in the story, judged so harshly to the point of extermination? It was decreed in Shamayim, it was decided in Shamayim, that Hashem decided to destroy Am Yisrael. Just like he told Moshe Rabbeinu, let me wipe them out and start a new nation from you. That's pretty much what Hashem decided during the time of Megillat Esther. Just there was no Moshe Rabbeinu. He didn't tell anyone that he's going to start a new nation from him. It's pretty much a complete extermination. Why did we get such a horrible, horrible decree? The reason why is because the rabbis and the Jews, now they could get out of it and saying, listen, I can't not go to the party. It's the party of the king. If we don't show up, he's going to kill us. We're locals. We're not the people that live in faraway countries. We live in Shushan. So if anyone doesn't go to this party, he's going to say, oh, he's Mored B'Malchut. He's going against the kinghood. So we have to show up. Why did we get punished? Because we enjoyed it. Now, why was it a big deal to enjoy it? Because the whole party is because it's against the Torah. The prophecy didn't come true yet. He's showing off what the Goyim stole from us, what he stole from us, from the Bet HaMikdash, the house of Hashem, and you're going to enjoy the wine and the drinks? It's like somebody robbed your house and say, oh, you know what, let me send him a birthday cake. Or celebrating, Hitler's anniversary. What are you doing? Going, okay, you have to go, but you're enjoying it too. This is one of the worst things that we could have done. This created a Chilul Hashem. Chilul Hashem is the worst sin you can possibly make. And it's actually something that's happening still today. When is it happening today? When you have these fake religious people that are Rashayim Merushaim Yimach Shimam V'Zichram, by the organization called Neturei Karta. Neturei Karta is a bunch of evil, wicked people that were born Jewish and dress Jewish. Not only Jewish, dress black and white with the payas and everything, but they go and do and celebrate anything that happens bad in Israel. They celebrate because they're against the foundation of the modern Israel. But listen, if you're not a fan of the Congress or the government of Eretz Yisrael, obviously anyone that's religious can't be a fan because they're anti-Torah. But to celebrate when Jews are being killed, to celebrate when there's missiles being thrown at us, to celebrate when the enemies are advancing against Am Yisrael, that's a Chilul Hashem that couldn't be any worse, and that's what they do. There's even videotapes of them hugging and kissing the leaders of Iran and the top terrorist leaders. The worst part about it, if this was like an ordinary secular Jew, no one would care. It's like, it's just some guy that's crazy. But when it looks like it's religious Jews, it gives the entire Torah, not just the entire Judaism, the entire Torah, a bad name. And there's no Chilul Hashem worse than that, and there's definitely a special place in Gehenom for people like that, and hopefully they get there very soon. Now, people need to understand that we have an obligation to look Jewish. We learn this from Mordechai. When it mentions Mordechai in the Megillah, it says, the first thing it says, Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan Abira, u'shmo Mordechai, ben Yair, ben Shimei, ben Kish, Ish Yemini. There was a Jewish man in Shushan, the capital, of whose name was Mordechai, son of Yair, son of Shimei, son of Kish, a Benjamite, who had been exiled from Jerusalem along with the exiles. So it says Ish Yehudi. What's an Ish Yehudi? Now, if you pay attention, the only other reference to being someone called an Ish is in two places. One, in the Torah when it's referring to Moshe Rabbeinu. And the second time is actually when it's referring to Hashem. The one thing that we learn from here is that that Mordechai was not only a tzaddik, he was the Moshe Rabbeinu of his generation. Now, Ish, if you see the Rashi Tevot, what's a Ish? How does somebody call the Ish? Ish, Yireh Shamayim. A man who fears God. This is the description that Moshe Rabbeinu got. Yehudi, he was called Yehudi, and he was also named Mordechai because הוא היה מורד בעבודה זרה. He went against Avodah Zarah publicly. Now, why is he described Ish Yehudi Ushmo Mordechai? Well, how did everybody know that he was a Ish Yehudi? Is because he dressed the part. I think it's Rabbi Nachman who says that his payas were so long and he was so proud of them his clothing, anyone that would see him, even someone blind was able to identify this one is not only a Jew, he's a man who fears Hashem. So his identity was never hidden. And even though we weren't exactly in power at the time of the story, he was very proud to be a Jew. So we are obligated to do the same. We're obligated to look Jewish. We cannot look like the Goyim. We can't wear their same type of clothes. This is the reason why in today's age, people wear the black and white. One of the reasons, at least. You're not obligated to necessarily wear the black and white, but you have to look like a Jew. So how do you look like a Jew? There's certain things that Jews have. They have a tzitzit, they have a kippah. There's certain things that Jewish people do. You have to look like the part. When we get to a point, unfortunately, some places in the world that we're embarrassed of who we are, we either need to learn a lot more Torah and get some serious help with our Yirat Shamayim, or we need to move. A lot of people that are still living in Europe in places that have a lot of anti-Semitism are crazy. They're just bringing harm to themselves. Moving on with the story. Now, to show off his Gdulah, to show off his power, show off his good choices, he wants to show all of the people his wife, Vashti. But he doesn't want to just show her and say, oh, there's a picture. He wants to show everyone that she's the most beautiful woman in the world. He wants to have her show her true beauty. What's her true beauty? He wants her to show herself naked. Now Vashti was a very, very wicked person. But when she was asked to do this, she refused. Why did she refuse? Because Hashem punished her. And put a disease on her skin, and some actually say even she grew a tail. Why was Vashti punished so badly in this moment? Because Vashti sinned in the two worst sins for everyone. One is she sinned, or three. First, she went against the women of Israel by forcing them to work on Shabbat. Forcing the women of Am Yisrael to work on Shabbat. Again, the Goyim knew what Shabbat was. They knew probably more than even Jews know today. And they specifically did everything they could to make sure that the Jews stay away from Hashem. Because they knew that as long as the Jews stay secular, Hashem is not going to help them. So first thing she wanted to do is make sure that she destroys the connection between Am Yisrael and Hashem. She made the women of Israel work on Shabbat. The second thing is she would make them work naked. Third thing is, before Achashverosh called her to come to join the party and show the men her naked body, she was actually also wearing the clothing of the Kohanim. So she was also desecrating Hashem's name. So Hashem in his amazing ways, measure for measure, not only made a decree that she has to appear naked in front of everyone, but she can't because she's disgusting now. But on top of it, when Achashverosh decreed, when this whole thing happened, it was on Shabbat. So when the death penalty was decreed, it was on Shabbat. She was killed on Shabbat. She made the Jews violate Shabbat. She got killed on Shabbat. But before she got killed, there was a Ga'ava battle. There was a pride battle between her and Achashverosh. You see, the first time that Vashti is mentioned, it says, La'avi et Vashti amalka lifnei hamelech. And the second time it says, V'timein amalka Vashti. It's the first time it says, where Achashverosh is saying, to bring Queen Vashti before the king. But then, to bring Vashti the queen before the king. But the second time it says, but the queen Vashti refused. Why is the queen after the name in the beginning and before the name a second time? Is because Vashti, Chashverosh was trying to tell her, listen, I'm the ruler, I'm number one. You are Vashti, the queen. You're only the queen because of me. when Vashti responded, she says, tell Achashverosh that I am the queen Vashti, and I come from a royal bloodline, and he used to be my father's horse cleaner. So remember who I am. So they went back and forth with the Gava, and of course this is usually the recipe for all disasters. And eventually, when she rejects, Achashverosh decides that he has to ask his advisors, what should I do? Achashverosh goes to his advisors, the closest to him. First he goes to the wise men. So it says, Vayomer HaMelech LaChachamim, Yodei HaItim. It says, then the king spoke to the wise men, those who knew the times. What does it mean, those who knew the times? The first Chachamim that he went to the Jews, he went to the rabbis. What does it mean, those that knew the times? He says, those that knew the calculation of when the moon renews. Only the Jews knew exactly the exact time of when the moon will renew. There's an exact math in the Gemara. It tells you exactly what the 6-digit number of the minimum days that it would take the moon to go around the earth, which is something that science only discovered in the last 2 decades. We already had it a few thousand years ago. So he knew that the Jews, even though he was a big anti-Semite, he knew they were still the smartest. So he went to them. But the Jews figured out, listen, he wants us to judge what should he do with his wife. If we tell him to kill her, tomorrow morning when he's not drunk, he's going to wake up, he's going to realize his wife is dead, he's going to blame us, he's going to kill all of us. On the other hand, if we don't tell him anything, we say, no, don't kill her. Tomorrow, people are going to remind him, look, she went against you. What kind of advice are you getting? He's going to kill us anyway. So what should we do? So the wise men were called wise for a reason. They got out of it. How did they get out of it? They said, listen, since the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed by the previous king, by Nebuchadnezzar, since then, so did the judicial court, so did the Sanhedrin. There's no more Sanhedrin. And since that time, there's a law in our religion that we're not allowed to make any rulings for anyone. Not even ourselves. So I'm sorry, we can't help you. It's against our religion. So okay, fine, this is a party. I'll let you pass. So now he goes to his own advisors, and it says, "V'akarov elav karshena shtar admata tarshish meres marsena memuchan shivat sare paras." It gives the 7 names of the advisors: karshena, shetar, admata, tarshish, meres, marsena, and memuchan. Now Chazal says that memuchan, the last one mentioned, was actually another name for Haman. Haman HaRasha. And you see that even though he's the last one mentioned, he's the first one that responds with the suggestion. It says, Vayomer memuchan. Memuchan declared before the king and the officials, not only against the king has Queen Vashti done wrong, but against all the officials and all the people and all the provinces of King Achashverosh. In so many words, what he's telling him here is that he's telling him, listen, Vashti, she made a big sin. She didn't only go against you. She went against all of us. Because she did it in public, everyone is going to know, every wife, for all of your officials, for all of the people, is going to know that if the queen can go against the king, then the wife can go against the husband. It's going to cause chaos. The real truth is that Haman actually had a lot of shlom bayit problems. His wife was the boss in the house. Even though he was very, very rich, his wife would tell him what to do and constantly go against him. So he wanted to, he knew that if this whole thing gets publicized, that the queen is allowed to go against the king, then he knows that his life is over at home. He says, listen, you have to kill her. But one thing we learn here as far as Mussar is that we notice that, I said in a Shiur earlier this week, that we noticed that Memuchan or Haman was mentioned last, but yet he was the first one that responded, which is, we learn in Mishnah Masechet Avot, chapter 5, Mishnah 9, it says, Shiva dvarim begolem, v'shiva bechacham. The 7 traits that characterize a fool, an uncultivated person, and 7 a learned one. And it goes into detail, but it says that a fool is one who speaks out of turn in so many words. He replies inappropriately. He discusses the first things last and the last things first. In essence, the exact opposite of what a smart person would do. And one of the things that somebody like that does is that he actually speaks out of turn. He's mentioned last, but he speaks first. And you see here that Haman was not only wicked, but he was also a fool. But during this advice, which is usually not a part that we pay that much attention to, we see something amazing. Aside from giving Achashverosh the advice that he should kill the queen, he says, listen, you're the king of 127 countries. But to make a simple ruling like killing your queen or what to do with your queen, you're asking us. Because you have a rule in your own court, in your own kingdom, that you have to ask your advisors. I don't think you should ask your advisors. I think you should make a new law. You're the king. You should make the law and don't ask anyone. If you want, you can ask. But it shouldn't be a law that you have to ask them. Now this doesn't really seem like a big deal. What's the big deal here? This, at the end of the Shiur, we're going to find out how this specific thing ends up being how Hashem shows His name in the parasha without showing His name. The simple explanation is that Achashverosh listens to this advice. At the end of the story, when Haman is found to be one that wants to kill Esther and Mordechai and all of the people, Achashverosh is very heated and he decides to kill Haman on the spot. So we learn from here that if it wasn't for the beginning of the story, the background story, that Haman changed the rule, then even to kill Haman himself, Achashverosh wouldn't have been able to do. So in essence, what ended up happening is that Haman, he passed a law that ended up being his own poison. This is a beautiful way of how we see how Hashem provides the cure before the ailment. He gives us the solution before we even realize there's a problem. And this is the story of Megillat Esther over and over and over again. You see it, different details, different things that happen one after another, where you see that Hashem is constantly doing things that don't seem like much of a big deal. And later on, you know that each one of those pieces of the puzzle, if one piece of the puzzle wasn't there, the whole story would collapse. Which is the reason why at the end of the Megillat Esther, when Esther decrees to the Chachamim to write the story, Chachamim say, no, listen, publicizing the story, maybe the Goyim, maybe the non-Jews are going to go against it. We're publicizing a story technically against them. That our God made these miracles and saved our nation. Maybe they're going to go against it. He says, no, you have nothing to worry about. The story is so miraculous that even the Goyim knew that it's the hand of Hashem that made it all happen. Even the Goyim admit that Hashem was in charge of all of it. So we have to see it ourselves. Why do we have to see it ourselves? Number one, because again, we see that this is a divine book that we have to learn. Number two, we see that Hashem hid himself within the story, but he's still hiding himself today. He's doing the same exact thing today. The story of Megillat Esther is the last generation of prophecy. This is the last generation of prophecy. But Hashem provided the prophets while at the same time hiding himself. So he was pretty much in the mix between the two different worlds we've had. The time of before Megillat Esther, we had prophecy, we had open miracles in the Bet HaMikdash. Amazing. Now, Babkis. We don't have no prophecy and no open miracles that is to the public that we know of. Because most people call it nature, not Hashem, unfortunately. And people deny Hashem in any chance that they have. Here we have the combination of both. Here is the middle between us and the connecting point between us and Moshe Rabbeinu. We don't have the prophets we don't have the prophets today, but we had it back then. We don't have the open miracles, but they did not have it either at the time. So they were also questioning things the same way we are. But if you look at the details, you see that there are open miracles. It's just that you have to look for them. You have to admit that they're open miracles and not coincidence, which is actually the whole concept behind the thought process that Haman had. Haman, if you notice the wording of the Megillah, every time he mentions something, he always says mikre or kara. So in essence, he thinks that everything is a matter of luck and fortune. So when there was a bad fortune that he was supposed to walk Mordechai and serve him for the day because the king decreed it, when he came back home to tell his wife and his advisors and children what happened, he's saying, oh, it happened, it's just a matter of bad luck. It's not that this is something that's happening from Shamayim or anything like that. After this, after he kills Vashti, Achashverosh kills Vashti, passes that new law, he gets depressed, so he has to find a new wife, and he decrees that all of the virgins in all of the countries have to appear. Each one has to get ready, and there's a 1 year time frame for each one of them to get ready. 6 months that they have to be beautified by oil of myrrh, and 6 months with perfumes. Now originally it was all of the virgins, all of the single girls. Then we meet Mordechai, and Mordechai says that he's a father, he's a adopted daughter named Hadassah, and she's also called Esther. So Chazal asks a few questions. First of all, why was Esther also called Hadassah? Which one came first? It says just as the Hadass, which is a myrtle, had a sweet smell, her actions, and she was such a righteous person that it was also like a Hadass. It was also sweet. But aside from that, she was also she was very beautiful, but the Gemara also says she was green. She was green, she had a greenish complexion. And also there's a Gemara, I believe, in Megillah, also that some sages say that she was 70 years old. She wasn't like a 25-year-old. So it's an interesting Gemara. But one of the things that we've gone over in the past, but it's worth saying it again, is that we're always saying that the Torah is divine. 5 books of Moses are divine. And we're also saying that the Megillah is part of the Tanakh, the written Torah, even though it does not have Hashem's name. So Megillat Esther is actually one of the best ways to prove that not only is the written Torah, meaning the 5 books of Moses and the entire Tanakh, divine, but the entire Tanakh, which includes Megillat Esther, is also divine, and on top of it, the oral Torah, the Gemara, that no one wants to believe in, is also divine. All 3. All comes from Megillat Esther. From the one book that everyone questions, you have a proof, the best possible proof you can have. So the Gemara asks, in Masechet Chulin, where is Mordechai mentioned in the Torah? Meaning that if the Torah is divine, you're saying that everything that's ever happened in history, including this shiur right now that's happening right now, the conversation that you and I are having right now, every conversation that ever took place, everything that ever took place or will take place is in the Torah. You just have to know how to find it. Everything that ever happened is inside the Torah. You just need to know how to find it. So the Gemara asks, Gemara is the critical part, foundation of the oral Torah. It says, where can you find Mordechai in the Torah? And also, in Masechet Chulin, page 139, on both of them, it also has the same question about Esther. Where is Esther mentioned in the Torah? If this is divine, okay, so it was written 1,000 years before Megillah Esther. But if you're saying this is divine, and it has the secrets to the entire world, where can I find their names? There's no character in the entire Chumash that's called Esther or Mordechai. So where can we find them? And not only Mordechai, and not only Esther, but this specific Esther, and this specific Mordechai. So the Gemara gives an answer to both. It says Mordechai is alluded to, is referred to in chapter, in Sefer Shmot, in Exodus, chapter 30, verse 23. When it's referring to the psamim, it's referring to the incenses, the anointment oil, it says, "V'ata kach lecha psamim rosh mordrol, 500 v'kinman." So it says that mordrol is where Mordechai is actually being referred to. This is in the Gemara. And the Pshat is saying that the Targum, the interpretation of Mordrol, is Miradachya, which, if you change the spelling, looks like Mordechai. Okay, this is nice. Doesn't show me it's divine, it just shows me that they just used a couple of words and changed it to a different language and made up Mordechai. This does not show me anything. If anything, it just shows me they're clever and very smart, but doesn't show me it's divine. Okay, so we're going to get back to that. Where is Esther? Esther is in Sefer Dvarim in Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 19. It's in Parshat Vayelech, during a section that Hashem is telling us what's going to happen after we make major sins. Major sins no different than what was happening at the time of Megillat Esther, no different than what was happening before Megillat Esther, no different than what's happening today. It says, "Va'anochi Esther astir panai bayom ha'u al kol hara asher asar ki pana el Elohim acherim." It says, "But I will surely have concealed my faith on that day because of all the evil that it did, for it had turned to gods of others." So the word Esther and Astir sound similar, but still we see that it's clever, we see it's interesting, but we still don't see how it's divine. How it proves all three parts. It proves the Tanakh, it proves the Megillah, it proves the Chumash, and it proves the Gemara. As I told you guys in the previous Shiurim, there's something called Torah codes. Something that Chazal, the sages, had already at the time of the Gemara, but we only figured it out using computers in our past generation. And if you look at it, if you go to the word Mordrol, and you take the Mem, which is the first letter, and you count 12,196 letters, you get to the letter Resh, another 12,196 letters skip, you get to the letter Dalet, and so on. You spell the word every 12,196 letter skip. You end up getting to the letters that spell the name Mordechai. The same exact thing happens with Esther. You go to the word Astir, which is the word that's referenced in the Gemara from nearly 2,000 years ago, Astir. You count 12,196 letters. You get the Samech, another 12,196, you get the Taf, and so on. But usually Torah codes, if you look at the things that we found about the Rambam, if you look at the things that we found about the Shoah, the Holocaust, you look at the prophecies we have in Sefer Dvarim about the idol worship and the prophecy that Islam and Christianity will be born, and unfortunately many Jews will fall into them and Be'ezrat Hashem get out of them as well. But there will be the two major false religions in the world. Most Torah codes have small skips, not 12,000. They have 7 letters or 50 letters, not 12,000. The bigger the skip, the more you think it's like a chance. It's not precise. It's not like divine. So why do we know that not only is this skip divine, and it proves everything we just talked about, but it's specifically talking about this Mordechai that's in the Megillah and this Esther that's in the Megillah, because 12,196 is the exact number of letters in Megillat Esther. The entire book of Megillat Esther has 12,196 letters, and again, at the time the Torah was written, the Megillat Esther was not written. It's almost more than 1,000-year difference. So you see that the exact precise number of how many letters we have is already written in the Torah well before the Megillah was ever written. So this shows us not only that the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and the entire Tanakh is divine because it has information about things that are happening in the future. It shows us on top of it that Megillat Esther was not just written by just an average person. It was written with someone that had Ruach HaKodesh, had divine spirit, and obviously needed the guidance of Hashem to write every single letter, every single character, because it obviously has to match the Torah that was already written. And on top of it, you already see that all of this wisdom was at the possession of Chazal, of our sages, in the Gemara, because without them we wouldn't even know where to start counting. And we wouldn't even know that there's even a possibility of counting 12,196 letters from that letter in the middle of the book or at the end of the book of the Torah. So you see that the entire foundation, all of it, is already written in all 3 places, and all of them completely agree with each other, showing that there's no way in the world that any of these books could have written by normal people without either Hashem guiding every single step or Hashem himself being part of it. Now, after we meet Esther and Mordechai, it says something changed in this decree from Achashverosh. Originally, the decree was only for Ne'arot Rabot, Betulot. Ne'arot Betulot. It was only for virgins, only for single girls. But now, after it mentions Esther, it says, Vayibi Yishama, Dvar HaMelech Vedato, V'yikabetz Ne'arot Rabot El Shushan. It says now the decree changed in essence. Now it just instead of saying it virgins, it says women, many young maidens. Meaning here Chazal explains to us that now it's including even married women. Now the Gemara says that even though Mordechai adopted Esther, he also married her, so she was his wife.
Hadassah, you mean?
Hadassah and Esther is the same person.
Right.
Hadassah and Esther is the same person.
So he married her?
He married her, yeah. She was his wife. So it says, don't read the word bat, lakachalo bat. Read it, lakachalo bait. This is in Gemara, Masechet Megillah, page 13. And she was actually his wife. Now,
But she wasn't a family?
She was the daughter of his cousin.
Oh, cousin.
Not, she wasn't the blood related to that extent that she wasn't allowed. She was allowed by the Torah. She was his uncle's daughter.
Yeah.
She was his uncle's daughter. So she's allowed. So, and he married her. But now we have a problem. This Achashverosh is looking at women. So she's doing everything she can. She was a big tzadikah. She was a prophet. He was a prophet. But they're also very, very righteous people. And she's trying to do whatever she can to continue hiding that she's Jewish. But at the same time, she has to stay Jewish. She has to still do the mitzvot. So one of the things that during this 12-month preparation process that Achashverosh would have each woman get ready, he would give her whatever she wants. Whatever she asks for, he gives her. So she didn't ask for anything, but she was given 7 different attendants. So what did she do? She said, each one of these attendants will come at a different day. No attendant will ever come to me twice. Why? Because this way I can count the days of the week, so I know when Shabbat is. She's a prophet. She doesn't know when Shabbat is. She doesn't know how to count in her head. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. She doesn't know. Yom Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi. Well, she doesn't know. No, she does know. But she didn't want anyone else to know that she's keeping Shabbat and she's acting differently on Shabbat. So she made sure that the maid that comes on Shabbat never comes during the week. So the one that comes on Shabbat only sees her once a week. So she doesn't know that she's acting differently on Shabbat than the rest of the week. That she's not lighting fire. So she thinks, no, she doesn't light fire ever. So this is one of the ways that she hid that she was Jewish and she was still keeping mitzvot. You see, sometimes you see the stories about the sages and the people in the Torah and how much they sacrificed in their life just to do, the mitzvah of keeping Shabbat, mitzvah, any mitzvah. It mamash breaks your heart when you see people today. You have to beg them to do it. Back then, they would kill themselves just to keep Shabbat. I actually read a story. I haven't finished it yet, but it's a very good story. It's in the Zman magazine, and of this past month, of this Yemenite guy that they lived in Yemen, and he tells a story of how his brother was kidnapped by the Arabs. 40, and after 46 years, he finally got him. He finally found his brother. They reunited. But he tells the background of how they grew up and how they started teaching these kids Torah from birth. And they also made them work at a very, very young age. So even at 5 years old, the person would already help the parents and already help the family with work. But how would they pay them? Even until they got much older. They would pay them by allowing them to learn Torah. That would be their payment. So the kids would work all day, travel from, city to city, carry bags, feed the horses, feed the camels, sheep, whatever they had them do. But the reward is the best thing in the world. Give me some time to learn Torah. Today you have to beg people to learn 5 minutes. So it's mamash. The generations have changed so much. Should make us think. Now, one thing I actually found as a nice chidush is that it's very interesting that despite what all of the women from all over the world did during this 12-month preparation process, still Esther, the 7-year-old greenish woman, is chosen by Achashverosh. Of course, this is all divine intervention. This is all Hashem doing it. But what I found that's very interesting is that it says that the preparation process is a mol. They have to put b'shemen mol, v'shisha chodashim b'psamim. So if you remember, the myrrh, that's the description of what they give to Mordechai. of where you can find them in the Torah. Mordrol. And the perfumes, if you remember, Esther's original name was Hadassah. Why Hadassah? Hadassah because it smells very sweet. So it's very interesting that the preparation process of all of these women is in essence, they're the same things that what Mordechai and Esther already are. And this is also showing us that when it came down to Esther, it specifically says, she requested nothing, except which Haggai, the king's chamberlain, and the guardian of the women, had advised. Meaning, whatever they told this take, she took it. But she didn't ask for anything special, she didn't ask for anything. Why? Because she didn't want to be picked. She's already married, she's Jewish, she doesn't want to be queen. If you think about this for a second, ask any woman today that doesn't have Torah as a critical part of our life. Ask any woman today, would you marry Obama right now? Right now. Be the first lady. I doubt any woman in the world would say no, even if she doesn't like the way he looks, even if she doesn't like his religion, even if she doesn't like the what he's done, or anything like that, she'd still say yes. Why? Because unfortunately, you don't have Torah. You look at superficial things. You look at, hey, wait a minute, King of America, the President of the United States.
Materials.
I get everything I want. Even more so with Esther. It's a real king. Obama may be powerful in America, but in reality, he's not the king of the world, or any president in the entire world. Not Netanyahu, not Putin, not anyone. There's no real king in the world today that controls that many countries. But here we have someone that actually controlled 127 countries, controlled the entire world. And the woman, Esther, is not interested in becoming queen. She's not interested in inheriting power to 127 countries. This shows you, right? This shows you the level of righteousness that she was. Now, after he chose Esther, he had a big party. But the biggest part of the party, the reason why he did the party, is because he wanted to make her really, really happy. And the reason why, Chazal tells us, is that every time he would ask, she was very mysterious. She listened to what Mordechai, her real husband, was telling her. She said, under no condition are you going to tell anyone who your people are and that you're Jewish. So Achashverosh was trying to make her happy and show off for her, and he's, why? Because he wants to convince her to tell him where she's from, who's our parents, where she's from, who she's related to. The reality of it is that Esther actually does come from a royal family. One of Esther's grandfather is Shaul HaMelech. Shaul was the first king of Israel, official king of Israel. He's also one of the most righteous people in history. So much so that, it's a very famous story of how Shaul and David HaMelech had problems, where Shaul tried killing David HaMelech because he thought that David was trying to go against the kinghood. He was trying to go against what Hashem decided, and it was obviously a mistake. David HaMelech was a very big tzaddik, and one of the most righteous men that ever lived. Until this day, people from all religions read what he wrote, which is the Tehillim. But Shaul, to the Goyim, a lot of the Goyim, especially Christians, think that Shaul is portrayed to them like an evil, wicked king. But in reality, the Torah tells us that Shaul was actually so righteous that if the roles were reversed, if Hashem would have picked King David, to be the first king, and Shaul was the one that was going to be the second king, because that's what ended up happening, and Shaul would have tried to kill David, he would have let him. Because Shaul was technically more righteous than King David at that time. And King David, a lot of people have a confusing, and for a long time I didn't know myself, is that it seems like when King David and Shaul met each other, King David was like a little kid, like a teenager, and Shaul was much older, but it's not true. At the time Shaul became king, David was 28 years old. He was already a grown man. So this is also a lot more confusion that you have in in a lot of the non-Jewish sources. Not that our Torah is a history book, but you see that when you look at the Divrei Chazal, you look at our sages, we have exact details, dates, and everything that we possibly need to know exactly what actually happened. Can you call him and tell him you could do work after, and you could come to listen to Torah?
Sure.
Okay. So, this whole party, he's trying to convince her. She's not doing it. She's not telling him. And this little bit of detail is again another piece of the puzzle that if it didn't happen, the whole story would change. Why? Because at the end of the story, in order to get Achashverosh to agree to kill Haman, to tell him what happened, and everything, Esther does a very clever plan where she says she invites the king to a dinner that she's going to make for him and Haman, and they come. And he says, okay, so what's your request? Why did you invite me? He says, no, come tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you the secret that I didn't tell you when I got married. Remember when you asked me, where am I originally from? Tomorrow I'm going to tell you. That's why I'm having all of these events. And after I tell you, then I'm going to ask you for something. So if she would have told him where she's from originally, she wouldn't have been able to use it, years later. And this is pretty much all he ever wanted from her. To know where our story, to know the secret. The longer the secret is kept, the more you want it. Now, after they get married, Achashverosh is doing everything and anything he can to enjoy Esther. The Gemara says that at this time, Esther is considered still married to Mordechai, and her relationship with the king Achashverosh is considered, she's anusa. She's being forced, like rape. It's considered like anusa. So it's not it's not violating her marriage with Mordechai because she's not doing it willingly. Once a woman is willingly with another man, then she's never allowed to be with a husband. Now, at this time, obviously the king doesn't think about this, know about this, or anything like that, and he's enjoying as much as he can with her. So much so that it gets to the point that two of his servants, two people that are heads of his servants, Biktan Veteresh, decide that him sending them all over the place throughout the entire night, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, to get wine, to get strawberries, to do this, to do that, is driving him crazy. They decide, okay, we're going to poison him, we're going to kill him. I can't take it anymore. Since this new queen came into the castle, I haven't been able to sleep. It's driving me crazy. We have to kill this guy. Now, at this time, they're speaking right next to Mordechai. Because Mordechai, as soon as Esther became queen, the king of Achashverosh says, you know what, I wish I would have a servant or a advisor like Nebuchadnezzar. The king Nebuchadnezzar used to have an advisor. His name was Daniel the prophet. He was a holy Jewish person that gave us a lot of the prophecies that we know today about the end of days. And he was the advisor to Nebuchadnezzar. So he tells Esther, I wish I would have somebody like him. She says, yeah, you know what? There is a very wise man that I know. She doesn't tell him it's my husband. It's a very wise man that I know, and his name is Mordechai. He's also a prophet. So he hired him on the spot that he's going to be one of the people that goes into is one of his advisors. So Mordechai is always near there. He's always near the king. He's always near the castle. So Bigtan V'Teresh got very, very upset that Mordechai was chosen for this position and not them. On top of that, they're very, very upset about the fact that the king doesn't let them sleep at night. So they decide to poison him, and on top of it, when they're doing it, they're talking about all this next to Mordechai. So they're talking about Mordechai also next to him. How could they do it? They're talking in a language called Tarsian. Tarsian is like an ancient language. And no one spoke it at the time, unless you spoke many, many languages. What they didn't know is that Mordechai was one of the members of the Sanhedrin. In order to be a member of the Sanhedrin, you had to speak 70 languages. Why? Because the Gemara says that if a witness in a case would come and would speak a different language, you have to understand them in their language and never use an interpreter, because an interpreter could change the words. It subjects it to risk. So you have to be able to understand that person in their language. So you have to speak those language fluently. This also shows us the value of Jewish education. A lot of people don't have an idea of what the Torah is, and they think, nah, what is it? You just learn the story. Just go to college, go be a doctor, learn science, learn this, learn that. They don't realize that when you really, really put your head into the Torah, you learn everything along the way, and much, much more advanced. And that's why you see people that actually have spent their life learning Torah from birth and really committed, not just people that just went to school. A lot of people went to yeshiva and ended up being stupid. It's not because of the yeshiva. It's because, unfortunately, people are either not dedicating themselves or sometimes you have bad teachers. But the Torah itself, if you actually have a whole family involved in the education of a child, you see that the kid is going to be much, much more advanced and mature than anyone else at any age. And actually, in that same story about the Yemenite guy, that was one of the things that the Arabs actually admitted when they saw...
46 years after he saw his brother, he said.
Yeah, they got together after 46 years, but he said during the story when his brother was taken, he was about 5 or 6 years old, and before his brother was captured, they went to this town, and full of Arabs, no Jews, and when the adults were talking, the 6-year-old would respond. And he said that the way he would respond, all the adults would be impressed at how he knows so much. And the Arabs said, now I know what they mean, and I have proof of what they mean when they say the Jewish people are the people of the book. I have proof of it right in front of me. They were so impressed with the 6-year-old and how he handled himself. Because they're 6-year-olds, what do they know? They know how to walk a dog, what do they know? So it's really amazing when you have Torah from a really early age. It's extraordinary, and it changes the person's his entire brain. Now, one thing also that you'll hear in my Shiur, Baruch Hashem, and in many rabbis' Shiur, is that usually when you mention things that happened, whether you're using the Gemara as a source, or using the Pirkei Avot as a source, or using different parts of the 5 books of Moses or the Tanakh, you notice that we mentioned where we got it. It's sometimes you said just the name of the book, sometimes you mention even the page and the verse number. Where do we get it? Actually, one of the sources that the Gemara uses is actually Megillah Esther. It says that first off, every time a righteous person is mentioned in the Torah, it says, and his name is Mordechai, his name is David. Whereas every time a wicked person is mentioned, it says Goliath Shmo. Goliath is his name. So it's the name first, then it says it's his name. Whereas if it's a righteous person, it says his name is so-and-so. So it's in essence a way of honoring. But aside from that, one of the other things that we learn in Megillat Esther is that when Mordechai finds out about this evil plan of Bigtan and Teresh, he tells Esther. And Esther tells the king in the name of Mordechai. It specifically says the matter was investigated after it was discovered by Mordechai. The matter became known to Mordechai, who told it to Queen Esther, and Esther informed the king in Mordechai's name. So it could have just said Esther informed the king. Specifically says Esther informed the king in Mordechai's name. This we learn in the Mishnah Pirkei Avot, chapter 6:6, when it says originally is Gdolat Torah she'i notenet chaim le'oseh. No, I'm sorry, 6. Not 6:7. Gdolat Torah yoter min ha'keuna u'min ha'malchut. The Torah is even greater than priesthood or royalty. And then it gives you different details of what the Torah does. But at the end of that Mishnah, what do you do with this Torah? It says learning in order to teach. Anyone who learns Torah needs to learn with an intention to teach someone. You don't necessarily need to give a Shiur Torah every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Or say it's 8 o'clock but really start at 9:30 because no one shows up on time. But you need to teach someone. If you have kids, you teach your kids. You have a wife, you teach your wife. You have a couple of friends, you teach your friends. You have co-workers, you teach anyone that you can teach. You have to teach, and if you have absolutely no one to teach, you teach yourself. So you learn Torah with an intention. The intention is to teach. You learn in order to practice, meaning you have to keep going over and over the what you're doing, and also to put it into practice, to actually do what you're learning. Don't just learn Torah and says, "Oh, you can't rip paper in the middle of Shabbat." Oh, okay, and then rip paper on Shabbat. Obviously, you have to practice. You have to learn the halachot of Shabbat. You have to learn the halachot, all of the halachot, and actually put them to practice. That's the point. The next thing it says, "Va'omer davar b'shem omro." למדת, כל האומר דבר בשם אומרו, מביא גאולה לעולם שנאמר, ותאמר אסתר למלך בשם מרדכי. It says, pondering over what he has learned, and repeating a saying, if you're mentioning a verse, repeating a saying in the name of the one who said it. For you have learned this, whoever repeats a thing in the name of the one who said it, brings redemption to the world. As it is said in Megillat Esther, and Esther said to the king in the name of Mordechai, verse 222. So when you are mentioning your source of where you got your information, you're actually bringing the Mashiach that much closer to coming. And aside from that, it's also very good etiquette, very good character trait to do, because you're showing that you are learning from someone and not necessarily showing gava, that you actually know everything, because you really don't. So you're not allowed to steal anyone's idea. If you have an idea, if you're using somebody's lecture as an idea or something like that, you have to mention where you got the information, as it says in the Mishnah. So after it's discovered, they find those two people guilty. They put them each in a room and confirm that they wanted to kill the king. And they hang them, and they write this information in the Book of Chronicles, the special book that the king Ahasuerus had, to remember anyone that did anything good for him. Now this is also another key part of the puzzle. How so? If anyone does something good for you, you say thank you, you try to return the favor. If you're in a position of power, let's say if you're a CEO of a company, somebody did you a big favor, and they need a job, you give them a job. If you're a king of 127 countries, somebody saved your life, you give him something. Give him a few dollars, give him a country maybe, saved your life. Here we see the king of Achashverosh, as generous as he was to everybody else, to Mordechai, he gave him nothing. He saved his life, he gave him nothing. This is a very big part of the puzzle. If he would have paid him right away, then later on in the story, when Haman was planning on killing all of the Jews, when it came time to fulfill the prophecy, fulfill pretty much Hashem's goal, which is to destroy Haman, part of the whole mission was to bring Haman to the highest level possible, get him to be the number 2 person behind the king, in order for his drop to be as big as it is. But how to do it? By showing that Haman is evil in his nature. He's trying to not only kill the Jewish people, he's trying to kill the most important people to the king, one of them being Mordechai. Now, if the king would have paid back Mordechai, he wouldn't have even thought about Mordechai ever again. But after the first dinner that he had with Esther, he went to sleep, couldn't sleep. They said the angels kept throwing him off the bed. Woke up and he said, you know what, I don't know, he had a bad dream. He's thinking, and he has a bad dream about actually Haman chopping off his head and wearing his crown. Said, maybe somebody's trying to assassinate me. Why would anybody try to assassinate me? I'm so generous, I give people money, I give them this, I give them that. So let me look at my book of Chronicles to see if maybe I forgot to pay somebody that did me a favor. This is where Mordechai shows up. If he would have already paid him, Mordechai wouldn't have showed up. He said, I already paid him. He's going to pass him like everybody else. Because he didn't pay him right away, the reward was available to later, which ended up was one of the key parts that saved Am Yisrael. This is the same thing of how we have to look at our life today. Sometimes somebody does a big mitzvah, they arrange a Shiur Torah, they donate a lot of money, they do any type of mitzvah. I actually have a guy in the other shul, in Shiur Miami. God bless him, Baruch Hashem, he's doing tshuva, he started keeping Shabbat, mitzvot, and so on. And he tells me, just yesterday, we did a shiur in Miami, and he tells me, listen, it's a Baruch Hashem keeping Shabbat, but it's very, very difficult for me. Not because it's hard to keep Shabbat, because he's in the car service business. Car service business. When are you going to use most cabs? Shabbat, weekend, Friday, Saturday. It's very, very big money loss for him. Tens of thousands of dollars. But when you know the truth, you can't escape it. When you know when the parnasah is from Shamayim, it's from Shamayim. So on one end, if we don't know that it's from Shamayim, we don't believe that it's from Shamayim, then we say, listen, I have to go get my reward right now. I have to go get my reward right now. The king, I did you a favor, I saved your life, give me the reward right now. Hashem, I did something, I did a little mitzvah, give me the reward right now. But if we know that Hashem has our best interest in mind at all times, then we know that anytime we don't get reward right on the spot, it's because there's a much bigger one waiting for us when we need it, not when we want it. Mm-hmm. When we need it, it's much more valuable. When we want it, it's just a short-term desire.
Amen.
There's a good joke I heard. This kid comes to his father and he says, Abba, I need this costume. What costume do you need? He goes, I need to be a cop for Purim. Listen, his father was very, very cheap. Didn't want to spend any money. He said, no, why don't you be a criminal instead? It's easier costume. He goes, no, I need it. You know how little kids jump up and down, make a big mess. I need it. Okay, fine. On Purim, you're going to get the costume. Fine. So, day before Purim comes, his father gives him a little half-broken gun. He says, okay, you're a cop. He goes, Abba, where's the costume? You said I'm going to get him a costume. He goes, no, that's the costume, the gun. He goes, yeah, but where's the uniform? He goes, no, you're an undercover cop. No one's going to know. This woke up the people yesterday. It didn't work on you guys. You guys are still sleeping. You should value my jokes. I don't have many. It's
been a long day.
Long day. Oh, Hashem. Long day. I know. Let's see. So again, we see how the Hashem is providing the cure before the ailment. Okay, so fast forward, we see that Haman obviously hates the Jews, hates Mordechai specifically, mainly because Mordechai does not bow to him, especially after he becomes the number 2 person behind the king. He does not bow to him. He doesn't do anything. When he, at some point, actually, he doesn't even acknowledge him that he exists. And people come to Mordechai and say, why, the king said that everyone should bow to Haman. Why aren't you doing it? Why are you going against the king? I'm a Jew, I can't do it. It's against my religion. There's 3 things that a Jew is not allowed to do, even if it causes them death. 1, idol worship. 2 is a sex crime. And 3 is murder. So there's 3 sins that if someone put a sword to your, or a gun to your head, and it said, do this or I'll kill you, you have to die for them. If someone tells you violate Shabbat, you're allowed to violate Shabbat if they have a gun to your head. Because Shabbat is put on hold because your life is in danger. But there's 3 things you have to say, no, kill me. I can't violate the sin. The 3 things are idol worship, a sex crime, and murder. What's idol worship? Is somebody says, listen, say that J.C. Penney or Buddha or Muhammad is true, or one of these nonsense religions is true. You have to, or will kill you. Don't kill me. Not allowed. Not allowed. Bow to one of these crosses, any of these things, not allowed. You have to die. Second thing is sex crime. Somebody tells you, listen, have sex with this married woman, have sex with this non-Jew, or I'll kill you. You have to die. Not allowed. This gives us an idea, by the way, is that it's better off to die than to be with a woman that's not allowed to you. Better off to die. So just realize how big the sin is when people do it voluntarily. You understand? The Torah tells you this one, being with a woman is not allowed to you, you have to die instead of doing it. Hareg v'lo ya'avor. It's one of the 3 things, only 3 things in the entire Torah you have to die for. Because the Torah says, Hashem gave us the Torah for us to live. With 3 exceptions. Believing in, saying that you agree to a false God. But another one of them is a sex crime. And the third one is murder. Your life is not more valuable than anybody else's. Everyone is brought to this world. You can't say, listen, kill him or we'll kill you. You have to die. You can't kill somebody else. There's a very famous story in the Shoah, in the Holocaust. A righteous man comes to a very rich guy. Comes to his rabbi. He says, listen, Rabbi, my son is in the Holocaust, but I have a way to rescue him. It's going to cost some money, but it means that somebody else that's Jewish is going to die. What should I do? And the rabbi tells him, I can't believe you're asking me this question. And the guy said, don't answer, Rabbi. I got the answer. And he let his son die. He let his son die. People today wouldn't even go to a rabbi. They just shave their son. They don't care about any. The whole neighborhood dies. It doesn't matter. People are selfish. But when you have the Torah, you realize your life is not more valuable than anybody else's. And if Hashem wants you to live, it doesn't matter what anybody else does anyway. But this gives us a lot of Mussar, because you hear that Mordechai refused to bow to Haman, and this is the one major thing that made Haman hate not only Mordechai but all of the Jews. He already hated the Jews from birth. He was from Amalek. It's in his blood to hate the Jews. But Mordechai would made him heat it up. It's like somebody's already angry and you're like poking at him. It's like somebody, and I remember like on Wall Street, I didn't have any good midot whatsoever. I had no Torah, so somebody would like, if it was like a bad day, the worst thing you could ask somebody on Wall Street if they're having a bad day is, how much money did you lose? What difference does it make? You're already hated. You're already upset. When you ask how much money I lost, like it makes a difference. What, are you going to give me the money? So, or something, silly questions. Silly, rhetorical, just retarded actually, questions that people ask just to make conversation. And it's the worst thing you can do when somebody's angry. So, here we see that Haman already hates us, but Mordechai is specifically making him angry. How is he doing it? Because Haman would walk around, he would want everybody to bow to him, but not only to him, to his idol. So he'd wear a chain with a pesel, with an idol. So everyone that would bow to him is also bowing to his idol. So Mordechai not only doesn't bow to him, but every time Haman comes next to him, he shows him the bottom of his shoe. Why does he show him the bottom of his shoe? Because of the background story. Chazal tells us that originally Haman and Mordechai were both generals in the army. And at one time they had a war with a different country. They were both on the same side. And Mordechai would teach his soldiers good midot. You have to only eat a little bit each time. So we preserve this food because we don't know the next time we're going to get a delivery of food. You have to eat a little bit every day. You also can't be too heavy, because if you're too heavy and we get attacked, you're going to die. And so on. Teaching him like a soldier. Good midot. Haman didn't teach his soldiers anything. His soldiers were like animals. They're like pigs. So as soon as they got the delivery, they finished the entire food. Now, soldiers get hungry the next day. They come to Haman, he's their general. He goes, okay, give us food. He goes, I don't have any more food. And he saw that this huge army is getting so angry, they're about to kill him. They're putting him in charge. So he ran to Mordechai. He says, please give me some of your food. You have a lot of food. He goes, no, why would I give you any food? He goes, if you don't give me any food, all my soldiers are going to kill me. He goes, why is it my business? You made a mistake. You taught them the way you did. You treated them like, you trained them like animals. Now deal with it. No, please, help me. Give me some food. He goes, what can you give me? He goes, I promise you that as soon as this war is over, I'm going to be a slave to you for the rest of my life. I'm going to be your slave. He goes, okay, you saying it doesn't mean anything to me. How do I know that if the war is over, you're not going to back out? He goes, no, we're going to write a contract right now. But there's no pens. So what do? On the bottom of his shoe, on the bottom of Mordechai's shoe, he engraved that I, Haman, am Mordechai's slave forever, and he actually put his blood on it to fill up the thing, so you know it's from him. So every time Haman would come, I'm Mr. Big Shot, Mordechai would show him, hey buddy, you're my slave, you're no big shot, nothing. You're my slave. So he's heating up even more. So he already hates him as it is. He knows that everything he's saying is true, and on top of it, he is heating him up. So this kind of brings us to a question. I mean, technically, you're not supposed to make somebody more angry. They're already angry at you. What's the reason? No, any ideas?
Making him more angry?
It's making him even more angry.
Intentionally?
Intentionally, not intentionally. Its point is he's doing it.
לפי המצב.
One of our obligations is to make fun of, one of our obligations in the Torah is to make fun of false gods. So one of the things that Mordechai is doing here is technically making fun of a false god and a false person.
There is a statue.
An idol, statue, yeah. But Mordechai is a man of truth. He's never going to go against it. And in reality, he knows that Hashem is the one that runs the world, not Haman, not any power. And he's not going to make a sin of idol worship or any of these arek v'lo ya'avor types of sins. Even though, unfortunately, a lot of Jews made the sin and bowed to him. Which is the reason why we're in this mess in the first place.
So Haman, at the end, became a slave to Mordechai.
No, at the end of Haman died. But before this whole story, before Haman became so powerful, he was technically supposed to be Mordechai's slave, but he backed up, he ran away.
He couldn't handle it.
No, he was a wicked person. So he didn't want to be a slave for anybody. So now Haman decides, okay, I'm going to destroy, I have this big position with the king. I'm going to plan of when I should go and destroy the Jews. Convince the king to destroy the Jews. Remember, I told you Haman was the second richest person of all time. Korach was the richest person of all time. Haman was number 2. He was even richer than Achashverosh. So Haman believed in luck. He didn't believe in Hashem. So he made a lottery of when is my luck going to be good to go against the Jews, and he decided the month of Adar. Why the month of Adar? Because according to their Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu died in Adar. Well, he didn't know. If you would have read the Torah, you would have seen that Moshe Rabbeinu was also born in Adar. He was born and died in the same day. So a lot of miracles happen in Adar. So now Haman comes to King Achashverosh, and he says this. There is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your realm. Their laws are different from every other people, and they do not observe the king's laws. Therefore it is not befitting the king to tolerate them. If it pleases the king, let it be recorded that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 silver talents into the hands of those who perform the duties for deposit in the king's treasuries. So in essence, what Haman is doing here, he's trying to buy the king's favor. He says there's this people, they're different. He doesn't say the name, he doesn't say Jewish people. People that are scattered, they're all over the place, but they have this weird religion, they look weird, they don't obey the laws of the king. And it's not, since they don't obey the laws of the king, better off to get rid of them. Why? Because one of their laws is so crazy where if they have a cup of wine and a fly goes into the cup of wine, they take the fly, they take it out, and they drink the wine. But if you, King Achashverosh, touch the wine, they'll throw the wine out. What he's talking about, yain nesech. If you have a yain lo mevushal, an uncooked wine, one of these expensive wines that are not cooked, like the grape juice we drink, a really good wine, if a non-Jew touches it, you are not allowed to even give that wine to your dog. But this is not discrimination against the non-Jews. This is also discrimination against Jews that don't keep Shabbat, don't keep mitzvot. A Jew that does not keep Shabbat touches that wine, the wine goes in the garbage. This is not the laws of rabbis, this is the laws of Hashem. Yain nesech. Why? Because in the old days, I don't know if it's necessarily done as much today, but in the old days, wine was one of the major ways that they would practice avodah zarah, idol worship. They would give wine and use wine for idol worship. So here Haman knew these rules, and he said, "Listen, king, if you touch their wine, they're not going to drink it; they'll throw it out. But if a bug goes into their wine, no big deal. They drink it. They throw the bug out and they drink the wine. So a bug is better than you, king. You shouldn't tolerate this type of discrimination, these types of people. And on top of it, I'll pay you 10,000 silver talents." How much is 10,000 silver talents? 10,000 silver talents is 24 million ounces of silver, or 750 tons of silver. And based on today's value of silver, approximately $16 an ounce, I did the math, it's $384 million. Haman is paying Achashverosh nearly $500 million to allow him to kill these strange people that don't have a name, that are dispersed everywhere, that are going against the king. And a bug is better than the king to them. Based on all this description that he just gave the Achashverosh, he lied about all this, but the point is, this whole description, why wouldn't he agree? But here we see that in order to do his will, Haman was the ultimate negotiator, but also delivering the wake-up call from Hashem. What are these three signs that he says? It says, "Vayomer Haman lemelech Achashverosh yeshnu am echad." So the word yeshnu literally means there. But yeshnu comes from the root of the word yeshanim, sleeping. So Hashem is telling us this whole thing is happening because you're all sleeping. You're all sleeping in the middle of a Shiur Torah. You're all sleeping, you're not doing this. The whole nation is not doing tshuva. The whole nation is going against Hashem. You're sleeping, he says. Hashem is telling us here. Second thing. He says, this nation, mefuzar umeforad. It's scattered and dispersed, meaning that they're not together. Sinat chinam. The Ashkenazi hates the Sephardic hates Ashkenazi, everyone hates the Yemenites hate everyone. This one is Polish, this one is Russian, this one is this one is that. Different minagim, different machloket, problems. That's not just today. Hashem says machloket, just like you had at the time of Cyrus. I told you, you're supposed to build a Beit HaMikdash, only 42,000 people showed up. No Beit HaMikdash. You still don't do tshuva after a few years? Okay, I'll destroy you. You're not united. What is the significance of being united? I said this a couple of times in the last week, but it's good to include in this shiur also. At the time of Noach, the people of the world sinned by making a huge amount of sins. They stole, they raped, they had bestiality, they had homosexuality, they wasted seed, so on and so forth. But they didn't go against God directly, they went against each other.
But how long did it take Noah to build the ark? Like 150 years, 150 years?
120 years.
120 years.
So Hashem allowed him to take that long because he wanted to give the people time to do tshuva.
Chance.
They didn't do tshuva, Hashem destroyed all of them. Only Noah, his 3 sons and their 3 wives, and Noah's wife, and Og, the king of Bashan, the giant, survived with the animals. Hashem destroyed the entire world. But if you fast forward after the flood, about 350 years, you have the Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel was the people of the world who knew the sons of Noach, meaning they knew people that were there at the time of the flood, decided that they're going to build a building to reach the sky and fight Hashem. As foolish as it sounds, that's what they did. They built a very, very big building to go fight Hashem. They weren't fighting each other. They were fighting Hashem. And Hashem, how did he punish them? He didn't kill them. He just changed their language. So all of a sudden everyone speaks Hebrew on one end before this happened. Hashem's punishment, all of a sudden this guy speaks Chinese, the other guy Arabic, the other guy Spanish, the other guy French. So everyone's talking but nobody understands each other. And this led to the destruction of the building, but the people itself, Hashem didn't destroy. So when you think about it, it should be the opposite. The generation of Noach went against each other, not against Hashem. The generation of the Tower of Babel went against Hashem, not against each other. Why didn't Hashem destroy them, the Tower of Babel? And why did He destroy the ones of the of the generation of Noach? This teaches us the power of unity, the power of being united. Hashem said, "Listen, going against me is one thing. Going against each other, I can't tolerate it. It's even worse than going against Hashem." He says, the generation of the Noach, they didn't go against me. They went against each other. Once they went against each other, I couldn't tolerate it. I had to destroy them. Generation of the Tower of Babel, even though they were going against me, at least they had unity. At least they were together. It's worth keeping them. This is also what we learn here. When the Bet HaMikdash was supposed to be built, the second Bet HaMikdash was supposed to be built, 42,000 people show up. No unity. When this whole story takes place and Am Yisrael is nearly destroyed, no unity. At the end of the story, if we fast forward to the end of the story, Hashem not only saves us from Haman and Achashverosh, from a major disaster the way they were going to destroy Am Yisrael in one day, something that never happened before and never will happen, but not only saves us, but He also builds the Bet HaMikdash. The secret is the unity. Haman knew this. He says, as long as they have sinat chinam, Hashem is not on their side. The second tool that he used is kavod. He went to convince Achashverosh. He says, they're going against you, so he's trying to please him, so he's giving him kavod. Kavod, anyone that's wicked, that's the number one way to get to their heart. And the third thing is money. Money obviously is the number one tool that people use today, so if you gotta go, you gotta go. So, but not only some money, he's giving him $384 million. $384 million is hard to negotiate out of. But he's also putting Am Yisrael in a position where they can't just talk the king out of it. It's not when you tell them, listen, I'm going to pay you more. They don't have $384 million. On top of that, they can't give him this. They can't explain. They can't rebuttal this whole thing about how they disrespected him. And the last but not least, the sinat chinam is not up to them. They have to change their own actions. They have to change as a people. So this is three tools that Hashem used against Am Yisrael, that Haman used against Am Yisrael, that Hashem in essence signed off on to allow it to happen, to make everyone do tshuva. As soon as the decree was sent out, Mordechai found out. It says, Mordechai yada et kol asher na'asa ve'ikra Mordechai et begadav ve'ilbash sak ve'efer ve'yetze betoch ha'ir ve'yiz'ak za'aka gdola u'mara. It says Mordechai learned of all that had been done, and Mordechai tore his clothes and donned sackcloth and ashes. How did Mordechai learn about what's happened? Because the actual decree that was made and publicized, some say that it didn't say the name of the people. Only the insiders knew what was really happening. But it says actually, some say that Eliyahu Navi came to Mordechai in a dream and told him that what's happening and that this whole decree is against the Am Yisrael. But not only that it's against Am Yisrael, he told him why it happened. It happened because many years ago, an event you all forgot about, 9 years ago, you all went and partied with the king and enjoyed it because of that. Mm-hmm. How do you do for tshuva for something you already forgot about 9 years ago? You don't even know. So that's the problem they have here. But the good news is that Hashem provided us the ability to do tshuva. So even in this decree, he said, Haman decided that since everything is based on luck in his eyes, he says, listen, right now is Nisan, we're going to have it in Adar, where, the decree, pretty much, this whole death penalty that the king agreed to, almost a year from now. Mm-hmm. So Hashem is giving us a lot of time to do tshuva. Okay. But Mordechai is not waiting for a year. Immediately he rips his clothes, puts on a sack, puts ashes on him, walks around the street, crying and screaming and praying to Hashem, crying to Yitzchak Avinu in Shamayim. He's saying, Yitzchak, when Esav, your son, the wicked son, Yaakov and Esav, when Esav, the wicked son, cried to you after Yaakov stole his blessing, you gave him a blessing anyway. Even Esav, after he cried to you, you answered him and you helped him out. Now we're going to be sold and slaughtered. We're going to be killed by Haman, which is a descendant of Esav. Amalek comes from Esav, and Haman comes from Amalek. All I can do is cry to you. Please help me. Talk to God for me, because that's the only way. So when you think about it for a second, technically at this point, Mordechai, if he used not his Torah, and used today's common sense, which is wrong, you think, listen, my undercover wife is the queen of the world. Let me just tell her. She tells the king. That's it. Chalas, finished. What's the problem? What am I so upset about? But instead of that, he cries and prays and knows that the only way for salvation is through Hashem. Why? It says here in Jeremiah 17:5, chapter 17, verse 5, Ko amar Adonai, Arur הגבר אשר יפתח באדם ובשם בשר זרעו, ומן אדוני יסור ליבו. And thus said Hashem, so this is Hashem himself saying this, accursed is the man who trusts in people and makes flesh and blood his strength and turns his heart away from Hashem. Hashem is telling us something critical here. Someone who, instead of going to Hashem, puts all of his faith in his boss, puts all of his faith in his friends, puts all of his faith in his customers, puts all of his faith in the president, gets a special curse from Hashem. There's no one worse than him. There's no one worse than him. Why? Because you're saying that Hashem is not capable of what one of his small, tiny, minuscule creations can do. There's no bigger chutzpah than that. Mordechai obviously knows this. He says, "Why go to anybody? I'm going to cry to Hashem because Hashem is the only thing that can save us out of this. Not man. Why go to the king? Go to my wife? Go to Haman? Go to anybody? No, only Hashem can take us out of this hole we're in." Be'ezrat Hashem, one way we're going to know that, because this is the same thing that we have as a problem already for generations. Every city and every country was mourning, just like Mordechai was. But it says here, in every province, any place the king's command and decree extended, there was great mourning. So it says V'chol medina u'meduna. It's a superfluous word, meaning it's using the same word twice. What's the significance of it? It says that the further the country was from Shushan, from the capital of where the Malchut was, the kinghood was, the worse the mourning was, meaning they mourned even more. They felt worse. The people that were close to the castle weren't really too worried. They figured, listen, we're close to the castle, we're close to the king. They're not going to kill us. We're friends. We're government officials. We're friends of the king. We play golf together. This is no different than the mistake that we've been making for generations. Same mistake that the German Jews made during the Holocaust. Same mistake that the European Jews made during the same Holocaust. Same mistakes that people are making until this day in America. Where they think, no, we're government officials. We're part of this organization, that organization. Listen, my friend, the Japanese, there was a lot of them before World War II was officially joined with the United States.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them in the United States. The minute Japan, which is a country that many of them were not even associated to anymore, the minute Japan bombed America, every one of those Japanese people were recruited and put into camps. A lot of people don't know this. All of them were put into camps and stayed there for a long time. So people think that, no, listen, if something chas v'shalom happens against the Jewish people, we're okay because we're friends of America or anything like that. You can't trust anyone but Hashem. That's what I'm trying to say. And unfortunately, people are making that mistake, because what ends up happening with those types of people that have their trust in people instead of trust in Hashem, what happens to them? Hashem curses them. And how does he curse them? They're the first ones killed. You see the people that had in Germany. Who did the Germans kill first? Which Jews did they kill first? The ones in Poland or the ones in Germany? In Germany. Same thing. So it's throughout all of history, not just the Holocaust. Imach Shimon v'zicham, all of these Nazis and haters of Israel today and in the past. But that's just the reality. But it's our fault. That's really the key here. It's our fault. Not saying anything bad about any Holocaust survivors or anything like that. They're all, Be'ezrat Hashem, in a better place today. But the reality of it is that it's written in the Torah, In bechukotai telechu. If you go within my laws, Hashem gives you special protection. Ones that are righteous are in Gan Eden. Ones that aren't, did a gilgul. But the point is that all of this suffering comes for a reason. Why? Because we put trust in man. As book of Jeremiah says, you put trust in man, Hashem curses you. It says it's as simple as it gets. It's not the most pleasing thing in the world to hear, but it is the truth. Now, as soon as Mordechai walked around as he did, the messengers of and the people that worked for Esther saw him, and they reported it to Esther. Esther, as soon as she heard that the tzaddik Mordechai is walking around with a sack, crying, screaming, with ashes on him, it says, V'titchalchal. V'titchalchal means she was greatly distressed. But Chazal says that titchalchal actually means one of two things. She either became nida on the spot, she started bleeding, or it's possible, some people say, that she actually was pregnant with the Achashverosh's baby, and she had a miscarriage on the spot.
Nitchalcha?
V'tit chalchal.
תתחלחל.
It's a biblical word. It's not a normal. It's not a modern Hebrew word.
Okay.
Titchalchal. Greatly distressed. That's the pshat. But the literal meaning means became full of hollows. She became full of holes.
Mm-hmm.
So the Chazal explains it in Masechet Megillah, page 15, that her stomach loosened, meaning either she blood came out because she became nida, or if she was pregnant, some say in Midrash Panim Acherim, says she actually had a miscarriage.
Mm-hmm. Of stress.
So she called Mordechai. She sent him clothes because she wanted him to come to her. He's not allowed to go into the castle with his sack.
Mm-hmm.
Mordechai did not accept him. Why did he not accept him? Why, he's got gava, he wants his sack? No. What's going on here? It says that Mordechai knew the only chance he has is he puts 100% faith in Hashem and doesn't stop praying. So he doesn't have time to go meet with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He has to pray, he has to cry, he has to save Am Yisrael. Didn't want to stop, he couldn't go into the castle, couldn't do anything. And the messenger was asking Mordechai, Mazeh ve'al mazeh, what is this about and why? Like, why are you crying? She doesn't know what's happened. She doesn't know the decree happened. So what Chazal is telling us also in the Midrash is that she was actually asking that this... Tell us, what is this crisis in? I mean, is it possible that why are you so bad?
How she doesn't know about the decree?
She kept her privacy. She wasn't involved in government in any way, shape, or form, and she was only allowed to see the king if he called her.
But people...
No, this just happened. So it wasn't necessarily a news big enough for her to know. Mordechai himself only knew from prophecy.
From the prophecy, okay.
So she was telling him, "What is this? Did you hear something? Did you get a prophecy? Did you hear something that is a decree against Am Yisrael so bad that it's like if they deny the Torah? Mazeh mazeh. What's mazeh mazeh?
Mm-hmm.
It says mizeh mizeh ktuvim on the one side and on the other side, meaning the Luchot Abrit, the 10 Commandments. Mm-hmm. They were written on both sides. Mizeh mizeh. It's in Exodus. So. Says, did Am Yisrael deny the Torah or something? Why? What's happening? Why is it such mourning? So Mordechai told her messenger not only what the decree was, but why it happened. It's a sin that we can't even fix right now. It's a sin from many years ago. All the rabbis did a Chilul Hashem.
Mm-hmm. And enjoyed it.
Enjoyed the party when they're partying that the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed and it's not being rebuilt. We're being punished for it. Actually, Mordechai is the only one that didn't sin. He's the one that told everybody not to go. Mm-hmm. And he's the one that's crying more than everybody right now because nobody will listen to him.
Moshe.
And he's also telling Esther this, and he's telling her also, by the way, even you, it's not going to be just an easy conversation because there's money involved. When there's money involved, it's not just conversation. Haman paid $384 million.
It's a business.
To do this deal. What are you going to do? You can't give him money. You don't have any money. It's his money. No one here has $384 million. What are we going to do? So he tells her, listen, you have to go and see the king right now and tell him not to do it. Beg him. Save our people. She sent her messenger back. And she says, listen, the king, you know that the king has laws, and no one is allowed, including me, the queen, to just go see the king uninvited. So if I go there, I'm making the same sin like Vashti made. Mm-hmm. She didn't want to come when he invited her. Me going there uninvited, it's the same thing. So I'm guaranteed to die. I can't go. Not because I want to save myself, but because it's been 30 days since he saw me, so I know he's going to call me anytime soon. So let's just wait a few days. He's probably going to call me in the next week. Why should I put everything in danger? And this, what Mordechai responds, teaches a lot of Mussar. It's very powerful Mussar for today's generation of rich and religious Jews specifically, in my opinion. ויאמר מרדכי להשיב אל אסתר, אל תדמי בנפשך להימלט בית המלך מכל היהודים, כי אם החרש תחרישי, בעת הזאת רווח והצלה יעמוד ליהודים ממקום אחר ואת ובית אביך תאבדו. ומי יודע אם לעת כזאת הגעת למלכות. So Mordechai says, he replies to Esther, he says, do not imagine, do not hallucinate in your soul that you will be able to escape the king's palace any more than the rest of the Jews. Like, don't think that just because you're queen, you're going to stay the queen when this decree is passed. They're probably going to kill you also. Mm-hmm. But in the small chance that you survive, for if you persist keeping silent at a time like this, relief and deliverance will come to the Jews from another place, but you and your family's house will perish. It says, if you stay quiet now, don't say anything, just remember, Hashem is going to save the Jews anyway. He promised that He's going to our Father forever. He promised He's going to protect us forever, even through bad times. He's not going to destroy us. But you have an opportunity because of the position that you were given. Who knows? That's the reason why you were put in this position. Mm-hmm. Being taken from being my wife to being the wife of this king, that's a goy. It's really the only reason why you're there. That's why Hashem put you there. But if you decide to not say anything, don't imagine that this is a good idea because Hashem is going to save the Jews anyway, and you may never have an opportunity to be the tool that Hashem used. You're never going to be able to be the tool that Hashem used to save the Jews. But the salvation is going to come from another place. But what does it mean by your father's house will perish? He's reminding her that she is of a descendant, a granddaughter of Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech, even though he was a very, very righteous person, at the end of his life he made a sin. And that's why Hashem took him out of this world and took the kinghood away from him. But Shaul HaMelech was a very righteous and very modest person. So the Chazal Masechet in the Gemara says, why did Shaul, what benefit did he did, or what merits did he have to have such a granddaughter like Esther? It says because Shaul was very modest, was a very modest man. Even though he was so big and he was powerful, he was head and shoulders above everyone, both spiritually and physically, he was still a very modest person. And he was gifted a very modest granddaughter, Esther. Mm-hmm. But he still finished his story with a sin. At the end of his life, why? Because Hashem commanded for him to destroy all of Amalek. Mm. And Shaul made the mistake. He said, listen, Amalek, I'll destroy all of them. But why kill the sheep? I can use all these sheep as korbanot. Mm-hmm. On top of it, when he got to the king, Agag, he said, look, Agag is a little scrawny, little nothing. Why am I going to kill this guy? What can he do, this little guy? Nothing. So he let him live. Hashem specifically said, destroy all of them. So the prophet Shmuel came to rebuke Shaul and went to the king and killed him himself. And Shaul never picked up a sword in his life. But he went and he killed the king himself the next day. The problem was that was enough time. That was a few hour difference. Right. Enough time for him to be with his wife. And that's where Haman came from. So from the mistake that Shaul, Esther's grandfather, made, Haman, the very same Haman that's about to destroy Am Yisrael, was born. So Mordechai is telling her, the mistake your grandfather made, you have an opportunity either to fix it or not. Because all this is happening because of a mistake of a previous generation. So now, this is where the action happens. So Esther tells Mordechai, tell the entire nation to assemble, to come together, and everyone fast for me 3 days.
For me. Okay.
Because I'm going to go and approach the king without being invited. I'm going to listen to you. He's going to do what you said. I'm going to go approach the king, which means that if I perish, I perish. If I go to the king, he doesn't like that I came. That's the law. He's going to kill me on the spot. But if I die, I die. It's not to protect myself, she says. I'm doing it to protect, to protect Am Yisrael. But if you're saying that I have to do it right now, I have to do it right now. And if I die, I die. But at least have Am Yisrael fast for me 3 days. And I will also fast with all of my maidens. We're also going to fast 3 days. To get so all of Am Yisrael has to do tshuva to get the Hashem to bring mercy on us. Mordechai does what she says. He assembles all the Jews, and they all start fasting. After 3 days, Esther approaches says, now it came to pass on the 3rd day, Esther dressed up as Esther donned royalty and stood in the inner courtyard. It says, Esther, v'ta'amod b'chatzer. V'ta'amod comes from the word Amidah. Amidah is the Tfilat Shmona Esrei. So she was praying, Tfilat Shmona Esrei. She was praying to Hashem, crying to Hashem to help her bring mercy so the king doesn't kill her when he sees her, because she's in a place she's not allowed to be without being called.
Mm-hmm.
But the king sees her, says, what is it for you, O Queen Esther? What is your petition? Even if it be until half the kingdom, it shall be granted. ויאמר לה המלך, מה לך, אסתר המלכה, ומה בקשתך? עד חצי המלכות וינתן לך. So, surprisingly,
He was in a good mood.
not only a good mood, he ran to her. He saw that she was she was shaking uncontrollably. She was very, very nervous. And he ran to her and he hugged her and he said, what, why are you putting your life in danger? Must be something important. I'll give you anything you want up to half the kingdom. So the first thing she says to him, she says, what's wrong with you? She says, when I knew that I was here, next to your majesty, I was overcome by your high dignity. She's giving him kavod. She's making him feel good. She's pumping him up. She was, the only thing I want is I want to invite you to a party that I'm making for you, and I want you to bring Haman. That's all I want. So here we see, if you remember before, we said that Haman is using 3 tools to get his evil past. What's the 3 tools? Sinat Chinam, right? The baseless hatred that's in Am Yisrael. Kavod, you gave Ahashverosh kavod. And a lot of money. And I thought something interesting here is that the solution to the problem is the same. How are we getting the solution? First, Esther tells Mordechai, assemble the nation. Assemble the nation, that already solves the problem of Sinat Chinam. If we're assembled, there's no Sinat Chinam.
Okay.
If we come together, there's no Sinat Chinam. kavod. She's giving the king kavod. She's telling him, listen, you're so mighty, you're so great, you're so this. I'm making a party for you.
Come to the party. Mm-hmm.
It's only for you. You and bring Haman. It's she's giving him kavod. And I thought, money. When you have Hashem, you don't need any money.
עד חצי המלכות.
When you have Hashem, you don't need any money. No, but she has to offer him something. He's offering her Chatzi HaMalchut. I'm saying when you have Hashem on your side, Hashem pays the bills anyway.
She give him back the חצי מלכות.
So it says, ותאמר אסתר אם על המלך טוב יבוא המלך והמן היום אל המשתה. אשר עשיתי לו. She was trying to make him jealous by inviting Haman. Obviously, she's trying to trap Haman, but she's trying to specifically tell the king, bring Haman. So the king's like, bring Haman? How would I bring Haman? Why are you asking for Haman? But they didn't exactly have the best communication between the king and the queen. So he just got jealous, which is perfect for this plan. But one interesting thing about this verse, it says, Chazal says here in the Rabbeinu Bachya, says that in the verse it says, Yavo HaMelech veHaman ayom, let the king and Haman come today. The word Yavo, the first letter is Yud. The word Amelech, the first letter is Hey. VeHaman, first letter is Vav. Hayom, first letter is Hey. Spells Hashem's name. So it actually says that when Chazal asks, where is Hashem's name in the Megillah? It says every time when it says HaMelech, without saying Achashverosh, it's actually referring to Hashem.
Mm-hmm.
So she's really saying, if it would please the king, let the king and Haman come today. Meaning she's really pleading for Hashem really to come, not King Achashverosh. She's asking for mercy from Hashem. So they come, the king says, Hayom, this is important. He left everything he was doing, got Haman to get ready right away, and he wanted to hear what's going on. What's this big party she already prepared for us? They go to the party, wine, dine, this, that. He goes, whatever you want. Why did you make this party? Anything, up to half the kingdom I'll give you. And she says to him, the only thing I want is for you to come again tomorrow. And tomorrow, I'm going to tell you the secret you've been waiting since the day I met you many years ago. You've been waiting to know who my people are. Tomorrow I'm going to tell you who they are, and then I'm going to ask you for something. So now this is the biggest secret in history.
Mm-hmm.
He's been waiting for years to find this out. Haman leaves the party very happy about himself. He's thinking, look, I thought that this whole party is going to be because she's friends with Mordechai. He doesn't know she's his wife. Mm-hmm. She's friends with this Mordechai guy. She's probably going to talk to me about, probably try to convince me to not do it. But I see that not only she not convinced me, but she made the whole party. She only invited me. She didn't invite Mordechai. Mm-hmm. So obviously she's not a fan of Mordechai either, really. She's giving me more honor. So she probably wants something for me to do her a favor to help her out with the king about something else. So he's all happy. He goes outside. And then he notices Mordechai. And Mordechai doesn't even acknowledge him. But Haman was too proud to go after Mordechai by himself. And he went home, he says, listen, I'm just going to destroy all of his people, but now he's making me so mad, I'm going to go after him. I'm actually going to talk to the king and tell him that this specific guy that's your advisor, we have to kill him. So he goes to his family. He tells them, look, I have all this money, I have all these sons, I have all this kavod, but all of it is worthless to me. וכל זה איננו שווה לי בכל עת אשר אני רואה את מרדכי היהודי יושב בשער המלך. all of this is worth nothing to me. All the money that I have, all the power that I have, all of this is worth nothing to me as long as I see this Mordechai sitting in the king's gate. Not that Mordechai is not bowing to him. He's not going to tell anybody that he's upset about Mordechai not bowing to him. He's just upset about Mordechai even being in this position of where he is for the king. So Zeresh, his wife, and all of his friends tell him, listen, convince the king and tell him to go hang him. Go take these tall trees, 50 feet long, these beams 50 feet long, and hang them. So he was really excited about it. So excited he couldn't sleep. He went in the middle of the night with the people to go put it in the, to put this tree.
To prepare it.
Now one of the Midrashim, Abba Gorion, says that they couldn't find a 50-foot beam in normal places, but one of his sons, by the name of Parshandasa, he was actually a governor in the mountain Ararat, and he supplied a 50-foot beam that they had from Noah's Ark. Now, this obviously was written many, many years ago. Before they made the discovery, they made about maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. No, it was long ago, even 50 years ago, but it only became public in the last 15 years or so, which is that they found Noah's Ark. Where? Exactly where it says in the Torah. Mount Ararat, which is in Turkey. So...
And missing few beams?
They don't obviously have... It's not like hanging outside where they could see every single part. It's inside the mountain already. It's covered.
Oh.
But there's some people that went inside. Point is that you have the location of it is not only written in the Torah, it's also written in the Midrashim, somebody that's been there. So that's the point. So they're building this beam. That night, the king tries to sleep, can't sleep. Hashem sends him some angels to throw him off the bed every few seconds. He can't sleep. He has a bad dream before he wakes up, and he has a dream that Haman is takes his sword and chops his head off.
Yes.
So he wakes up and he's starting to think about, why did Esther, why did my wife, the queen, invite Haman to this party? Are they both trying to kill me? Are they both trying to do something? Maybe they are. Maybe somebody. Why isn't anybody telling me? Maybe I didn't pay somebody who did me a favor in the past, so they know that it's not worth it to tell me if I didn't pay somebody that did me a favor. So then he wakes up and he says, listen, bring me my book of memories, the book of Chronicles. All the people that did me favors. And the person opens it, and actually Chazal says that the person was one of Haman's sons. Opens the book, and he says, yeah, read me the first thing you open. He opens the book, and it shows Mordechai saved his life from Bigtan and Teresh. But he doesn't read it, and he changes the page. But again, it appears the same thing. It's a miracle. It shows the same thing. And he says, no, read me. He goes, no, one second. He changes the page again.
And again.
And again it happens. Now the king gets really mad. He goes, read me right now what you have in front of you. Like he's trying to see, what are you hiding from me? It says, וימצא כתוב אשר יגיד מרדכי על בקתנה ותרש. שני סריסי המלך משומרי אסף. And it was found, written there, that Mordechai had denounced Bigtana and Teresh, two of the king's chamberlains, who sought to send their hand against the king Ahasuerus. So, in the beginning it said Bigtan and Teresh. Here it says Bigtana. Why? Because when the whole thing happened, one of Haman's sons was actually the scribe that would write it in the book. And he didn't want Mordechai to get the credit. So, and also, especially since his father, Haman, he got the credit for doing it. So what did he do? He says, he put Biktan or Teresh. Biktan or Teresh. Meaning that Mordechai went against Biktan or Teresh.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like one of the people, maybe there was a mistake here. Instead of it being, I saved the king, maybe there was a mistake here. Maybe I killed somebody, and maybe the king killed somebody innocently. So the miracle that happened here is that the word Biktan, and then there's Teresh. And he put the letter O, which is Or.
Mm-hmm.
Aleph Vav. So by miracle, Hashem moved the Aleph to the end of Biktan, became Biktana.
Mm-hmm.
And the Vav, he moved it to Teresh. So it's Vateresh. So it looks like he saved him from Biktana and Teresh. There's no doubt. That's why it's written that way. But here, Achashverosh also discovers something amazing. He realizes that until this point, because nobody really reminded him of these people, nobody reminded him that Mordechai was the one, and it was just written in the book. Up to now, Haman was constantly taking the credit for doing it, for saving the king's life.
Mm-hmm.
So he realized that the Haman is it's really doesn't deserve all this credit that he's getting. And especially since he had this bad dream. On top of that, right at that moment, he hears noise outside. Who's the noise outside? It's Haman, building the pole to hang Mordechai. He says, "Who is it? Make them come over here." And he says, "No, it's Haman." So he says, "Okay, what's going on here?" So he says, "Okay, Haman, how would you honor someone that the king really loves? Really did a big favor to the king." So Haman immediately thinks to himself, which actually shows that the writer of this Megillah had Ruach HaKodesh, because it says, Vayomer Haman belibo. Mm-hmm. Now Haman said in his heart. How could you know what somebody's heart is thinking?
Wicked people.
No, but the point is that the person that wrote the Megillah had to know what Haman was thinking to himself, because it wasn't said somewhere. Vayomer Haman belibo, meaning that Haman was thinking in his heart.
Mm-hmm.
So Haman is immediately thinking about what he wants for himself. So what does he say? He's like, "Oh no, you should bring the crown. Your crown should be put on him." So he's like, "I saw this in a dream. He had my crown, and your clothing, and also it should be on a horse that you rode, your horse." And you should have somebody walk him and saying, "This is what shall be done to the man whom the king desires to honor." This is for a person that the king wants to give him kavod. Mm-hmm. This is what he gets. So now the king is even more convinced that Haman wants to do all this. He goes, "Okay, do all of that for Mordechai." He goes, "Which Mordechai? There's a lot of Mordechais." It was Mordechai the Jew. Mordechai Yehudi. And he says, "Which Mordechai Yehudi?" Mordechai Yehudi Hayoshev B'Shar HaMelech. Mordechai the Jew who sits in the king's gate. That specific one. Haman came to Mordechai, and he's going to try, Mordechai is in sack, looking like a mess. He's like, I have to give you all this respect now for one day. He goes, "Yeah, but listen, I need to get a haircut, so I need you to cut my hair." He goes, "I don't know how to hair. I don't know how to cut hair." He goes, No, my friend. The Gemara says, Mordechai says to him, No, I know your past. Nobody knows here, but before you became a general, you used to cut hair like the rest of your family. You're a barber. You're a poor little barber. So cut my hair." So he made him cut his hair, dressed him, and to climb on the horse. He climbed on him, kicked him a few times, made him mamash suffer. But now the most interesting part of the punishment of what happened is actually how Hashem shows us how the pride comes before the fall. Right before this, Haman was on cloud 9. He got the decree that he wanted against the Jews. He has the money. He showed everybody off that he has all of it. He got invited to this dinner. Mordechai didn't get invited. And now Hashem is quickly, very, very quickly showing how the pride comes before the big fall. He raises you to the top, to really, 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 really high. And when you're wicked, he brings you even higher just to make sure that the fall is even bigger. So now quickly he went from building the tower to hang Mordechai to now he's walking Mordechai with the horse and telling everybody that this is the respect you give somebody that the king loves. And his daughter sees this. Now, Mordechai was embarrassed of this whole thing. So what did he do? He didn't want anybody to know that he's the one that's walking Mordechai. So he put Mordechai with the clothes of the king, and he took Mordechai's sack and he put it on himself, so nobody could recognize him. So his daughter thought that it's actually Mordechai walking her father, walking Haman. So she takes the bathroom, a bucket of the bathroom, and she pours it, and it lands on her father. As soon as he sees that, the bathroom falls on him, and he looks up and she sees it's her father, she jumps off the roof and commits suicide.
Wow.
This is in Gemara Masechet Megillah, page 16.
Instead of to say, oops, sorry.
No oops, no sorry, no nothing. The embarrassment sometimes is the, embarrassment, they say both in this world and the next world, is the biggest punishment. Rabbi Alonava that saw the other side, and other people that, even non-Jews, many millions and millions of non-Jews that had clinical death and went in front of the Bet Din, every single person says the worst part about it is the embarrassment. Embarrassment, because now you know the truth, because you're over there. There's no, oh, I forgot, oh, I didn't know. As soon as you arrive to the other side, your neshama already knows everything. It knows all of the sins and knows the truth of Torah. So it knows where you stand. So that's the worst part of all of it. The embarrassment of all the sins we made. As soon as this whole situation is over, Mordechai returns to the king's gate, puts back the sack, because he realizes that, okay, this was my last shot. I thought that maybe the one thing I'll be able to do is, since the king never paid me for saving his life many years ago, maybe now if he sees me in my sack, he's going to ask me what happened. I can tell him, this is what happened, save us, da-da-da. But now since he gave me this honor by walking with the horse and everything that I just got, now I know for sure I can't rely on anybody and only on Hashem. So he goes back, he puts the sack, starts praying to Hashem all over again like nothing happened. And Haman shows up at his house. It says, "Nitchafel beto avel v'chafui rosh." It says with his head covered with poop.
From his daughter.
From his daughter's
throwing it out the window.
So he tells. So as soon as he sees his family and they see him all disheveled, they realize, okay, everything is, their God is getting involved. It says if Mordechai is of Jewish descent, you will not prevail against him, but will undoubtedly fall before him. So they already, all of his dear friends, all of a sudden, they're not called his friends anymore. They, in the beginning, when they first mentioned his friends, it says they called him Oavav. his lovers, his friends. But now when they're telling him that now he's gonna, obviously this whole thing is not bad luck, because Mordechai is a righteous Jew, now they're called wise men. They're called Chachamav. They're called Chachamav. It's the same people. Mara says, somebody says something true, they're considered wise. But also you see here that as soon as they saw the tides had turned, immediately they left the ship. But even before he was able to change, even before he was able to clean himself up, immediately it says, while they were still talking with him, Odam Medabrim, the king's chamberlains arrived, and they hurried him to bring Haman to the banquet, which Esther is prepared, to the second dinner. So while he still has all this disgusting stuff on him, they said, listen, you can't be late. It's the king. It's not a joke. Take him with him. So already as he arriving to this dinner, the king is already disappointed. He's seeing his number 2 guy that he's having bad dreams about and everything. He sees him with all this stuff. This is how you show up to the queen's dinner.
Yep.
And he tells the queen, okay, what is it that you want? Up to half the kingdom you can have. And she says, if I found favor in your eye, please don't kill me. And don't kill my people. If you would have sold, because we've been sold, me and my people, you've always wondered who I am and who my people are. We're the people that were sold. And now we're not only sold, we're going to be exterminated. We're going to be destroyed. If we were just sold, I would have just kept it quiet because, who are we? Whatever, we just got sold. We're just slaves. It's not worth it enough to bother the king about it. But here there's someone that wants to destroy us. I'm pleading with the king, don't kill us. Who wants to kill you? Who wants to kill my dear queen? Who dared to do this? Says, the man who's the adversary and the enemy is the wicked Haman, the one with the sitting right next to you with the poop. ותאמר אסתר, איש צר ואויב המן הרע הזה. Haman was put in a spot, in a hole he can't get out of. Haman was put in the same situation as the Nachash in Bereshit. If Haman was in front of only one of them, he can weasel his way out. If it was just in front of Esther, he can say, no, I didn't mean to, I didn't know you were Jewish. I wouldn't have passed it if you were Jewish. If he was just in front of the king, also he could say, oh, listen, you have to know that the Jewish people are really bad people. But now you can't use both of those arguments and still stay alive. So he's put in a situation, Hashem put him in a situation that he had both of them, and he can't respond even. He can't defend himself. This is the same thing that Hashem did with the Nachash. After the Nachash, the snake, said Lashon Hara about Hashem and convinced Adam and Chava to eat from the tree of knowledge. When Hashem came to Adam, he said, what'd you do? And he says, no, it's because of the wife you gave me. He said, okay, you went to Chava, what did you do? She goes, no, it's because of the Nachash. And he didn't even ask the Nachash. He didn't ask the serpent anything. He says, Ahu. Immediately cursed him. Why? Because he knew that if he would have asked him, what did you do? He would have actually had a good excuse. You created me this way, or something like that. So Hashem put him in a spot where he cursed him immediately, and he has no way to get out of, because what he did was evil, and Hashem does not have the interest in letting people.
Before all that, the Nachash was the ruler of all the animals, no?
Okay. Right at the Am Loez, he just finished the first one, Baruch Hashem.
Oh,
Finished the first one. It's a big book. It's like 500 pages.
No, I didn't finish that, but I heard it from you.
Serious about success, my love. Serious about success.
No hands, no legs.
So, after the king finds out, he runs out, he gets really, really heated, walks out, and during this time, one of the angels comes and pushes Haman on top of Esther. So the king he's thinking to himself, wait a minute, this Haman, he's the same one that many years ago convinced me to kill my last wife. Vashti. I can't leave him with my wife, so he runs right back. And as soon as he runs back, he sees him on top of his wife, on top of Esther. Puts him in a bigger hole. And then Eliyahu Navi dresses up as Charbona. Charbona is one of the chamberlains, and says to the king, Haman is making a tree to hang your friend. The one that saved your life, Mordechai? Right at the same second. Yeah, that one? Yeah, he's making a tree to hang him, your friend. So, putting him in a deeper hole.
Warming him up.
And the king says, go hang him there. Hang Haman there. And that's what they did. Again, we see how this whole thing, this whole story, could have never happened without Ashgacha Pratit. How so? In the beginning of the story, when Haman advised Achashverosh to change the rules of the kingdom, he told him, change the rules, just don't have any advisors. If you want to ask us, ask us. If you don't want to ask us, don't ask us. Just do what you want. You're the king. You rule 127 countries. Why? Because if you have to ask advisors, then Haman knew that later on when he wants to ask him for something, he has to convince other people too. Mm-hmm. But if it's just the king and the king can make a decision, then all I got to do is convince him of whatever I want, and it's just one-on-one. So Haman is doing it for his own interest. Mm. But as long as he has advisors, even if I'm one of those advisors, I have to convince the other 10 people, 20 people. So he convinced Achashverosh to change the law in order to make the king completely rule and dominate everything. That very same weasel move that he made was the only reason why the end of the story is as such, where as soon as the king decided to kill his number 2 guy, this is obviously usually a thing you have to talk to advisors about. He didn't talk to anybody, he killed him on the spot without asking anyone.
Because Haman told him to do it that way.
Right, but this shows how before we even knew that Haman was a problem, before we even knew that the entire nation of Israel had a problem, throughout the entire Megillat Esther, we see that Hashem already provided the cure before the ailment. Before we knew we were sick, He already had the medicine. And this is the major Mussar scale that we have to learn from the entire Megillah. This is the basis of the overall story. There's a few other details after it, and obviously that we didn't cover. But overall, this is the major part of the Mussar scale of the Megillah, that in our life today, it's very, very easy to feel alone when you're not learning Torah every day. When you're not learning Torah every day, it's very easy to get stuck in your problems. Oh, I have to wake up really early tomorrow because I have work, because I have to go to work really early, because I have to make money, and I have to make money because I have to pay the mortgage, and I have to pay the mortgage because I have to keep this house, and da-da-da-da-da, and all of these things that build up in our head, and how we are responsible for doing all of these things, and how everything else is more important than Torah. And there's no worse thing that we can do, because that feeling that we get when we're doing everything, on one end it's good because we're thinking, oh, okay, I'm getting stuff done, I'm fixing this, I'm working, I'm doing all of this stuff. But unfortunately, that feeling doesn't last, because when the check doesn't come in on time, or when we lose a little bit of money, or we don't get paid, or something like that, then we realize that all of that work we did was for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, when we know that regardless of what we do, we're going to make our best effort, but regardless of what we do, Parnasai is from Shamayim. Whatever Hashem decides to give us, that's what we're going to get. Whatever our actions dictate, that's what we're going to get. When we realize that everything is in the hands of Hashem, then the thought even that our effort to work and deal with materialism ever comes before Torah would never even go into our mind. Why? Because we know that it's coming from Him anyway, so I might as well do more of what He wants, then He'll give me Parnasai in another way. And that's the main thing that we have to understand. If we do what Hashem wants, He'll show us the medicine that He already had for us. Because the medicine already exists. How are you going to make the money that you want to make? He already has. How are you going to become healthy? He already has the cure. How are you going to solve your problems? He already has a solution before you even know you have a problem. Once you do what He wants, I'll open the closet and I'll show you exactly where it is. But unfortunately, as long as we're not doing what He wants, as long as we don't have unity, as long as we don't have love amongst each other, as long as we're not doing Ratzon Hashem, as long as we're not putting Him before money, He's not going to show us where it is. When we do, we could see the very same miracle that Am Yisrael saw in Megillah Esther every day in our life. A personalized one, just like they all got in their generation. Any questions? Everyone have an amazing Chag Sameach, Chag Purim Sameach. Have a great break on Pesach. And B'ezrat Hashem will send you some more shiurim from Israel.
Amen.
Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.